What's happening, people? How you doing? How you doing? I am Sean Butler. I've got flu / COVID / something. I don't know what I've got, but I feel sensitive. Everything about me feels horrible. I've got a cold. I've got a sore throat. I'm coughy. I'm fluey. It's not good. And that's why I haven't been able to do any real Tottenham walkies this last couple of days. Apologies about that. I tell you, Bugsy's more upset than anybody. I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things that you love. What is going on? Shout out to the chat. Hope the chat is locked in. We got 200 people already in the house and we're just starting. It's Friday. Happy bloody Friday. I'm not going to swear. I'm going to try not to swear because I'm still being demonetized. They got me on the demonetization. They got me on the blacklist. I'm like Jeffrey Epstein. Don't want to go near me. It's weird. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring in a little friend of mine to the show. We got a few guests popping on today at various intervals throughout the show. People are going to come. People are going to go. People are going to stay. There's going to be probably some arguments because I want to talk a little bit about Harry Kane, talk a little bit about the Ange Postecoglou interview that finally he got it off his chest. He said what we've all been thinking. It's a problem and it's an unnecessary headache and that maybe we need to talk about this. But we've also got to talk about the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room for me is Aston Villa. I'm so sick to death of people comparing us to Aston Villa. They're nobody. They're nobody. Everyone's saying that Tottenham are nothing and Aston Villa are a bigger draw. They're not. It's madness. Anyway, we're going to get through that. The Kane thing, other transfer news, views, and clues on this, your Friday news bulletin. Welcome. Smash the like button. Let me bring in to the chat the man, the myth, the legend. You might know him from We Are Tottenham TV. You also might know of him if you're into your music and your British hip hop and things from stories that were YouTube legends of guys that pretended to be Americans, but we're actually Scottish with decent accents and all this stuff. It's amazing. Anyway, here we go. We got Brains McLeod in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Brains McLeod, how are you, Brains?
Not bad. You all right? Who's this guy you're bringing on? Sounds pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, he's coming in a minute. But until then, you're the fluffer.
I was honestly going to put my name up as Scottish Ham Hotspur. I was like trying to go for a rebranding, get away from the old... the music.
Sorry, I didn't know you were trying to distance yourself. It's always good, mate. It's good.
I'm kind of slightly worried just recently of how much Butler and his fine dog has been in my kitchen with me, like in the morning, cooking, listening to Butler, walking along.
Oh, really?
Talking, gosh. Yeah, it's been good, man. But yeah, it's really...
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's good to be on, man.
Good to have you back, mate. It's been a hot minute. There's 300. Look at the people rolling in. 300 of you now. We've been going for 5 minutes. Smash the like, smash the subscribe. And we're going to be plugging. I mean, Brains is going to remind me if he's got a channel, if he's got something he wants to promote, we're going to be promoting that. We got Sava popping on in a little bit. We've also got the Irish Hotspur coming in a little bit later on. And we've also got Adam William Cahill coming in as well. So there's going to be a little eclectic mix. But listen, Brains, I'm going to give it over to you. Where do you want to start? Because I think like the thumbnail was about Harry Kane, right? And I do. Obviously, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about this because Ange has come out and had his interview and said it is affecting him. But yeah. I feel like for me right now, I'm getting more irked by people that are flattering Aston Villa because they signed Yuri Tillemans and they signed like a decent winger. Right, and they've done bits and pieces, but this thing that Villa are a bigger draw, like, can we? I mean, I don't know. Where do you want to start with Harry Kane? Do you want to start with Villa? We got other things to talk about as well. What would you like to start with?
I mean, I don't mind starting with Villa. Like, to me, I get when people get all stressed out when like maybe someone who was on our target list once upon a time goes to like, a competitor. Like, I get it, but it just. All I can think about right now is like what Ange is doing. And even though we only saw a little bit of it, like the second half against West Ham, it filled me with like, oh wow, this is it. This is like fast moving attacking football. Like, so if you think about what your competitors are doing and how they're building their squads, you'll just go into the season nervous and not really focused on what we're building. And I just think the bigger story for us as fans is to focus on what we're building here at the club.
Right.
You know, you drive yourself mental thinking about, oh my God, they've got Doko now, or the, you know, like, it's like, okay, that's fine. You know, like we can see, we play a first half and we have our big names on it, be it that they haven't had much time at all, really, coming back from international duty. The second half has a player who's been completely out of contention with us, who we've just not even cared about in Lo Celso. We've had like a young player, Alfie Devine. We saw so much impressive stuff.
And okay, let's start with this. Let's start with that. You know what? Forget. We'll park Aston Villa. Let's start with, and we'll even wait for the Harry Kane conversation. Bear with us, guys. I think because that we can bring that up in a minute. Let's start with where we are at. I like where you're going with this, Brains. Where are we at? What did we see against West Ham that gives you pause for thought? Yes or no, positives or negatives?
You know, like watching that the first half, I was kind of like, all right, you know, like nothing surprising here. Maddison is playing where he plays for Leicester. Kane's it's embedded in him for England and for Spurs to drop in, you know, so it looked disjointed. Couple of good things from players here and there, you know, Bissouma showing that he's a great six, but really he's this, even in that game, he was box to box, making chances, nutmegging people. The confidence oozing out of the guy for me
on the ball, he was spectacular. He wasn't really challenged off the ball, was he?
Nah, it wasn't really a game, a half that you could look at him for, you know, what's it going to be? It's not like a Prem comparison, you know. But
I worry that people are gonna, because people are saying to me, Gavin, like, because I've been making this claim basically for 3 months. I'm like, I don't think that
he's not the six,
he's not the right six. I think I'm not going to say the word because people have recognized that I'm saying the word too much. I'm not going to say it. The requirements of the six are very nuanced. They're very nuanced. I'm not going to say the word. I'm not going to say. I feel like I don't know. Like, I think he did a brilliant 45. I thought he was excellent on the ball. You're right, mate. He was everywhere. He was confident. We found out afterwards when he was speaking to Spurs Play that Uncle Ange has been giving him confidence and leadership kind of requirements, and he's taken to that, you know, quite with a lot of enthusiasm, going and talking to the young lads and stuff. And it was wonderful stuff to see. But that role of the Callum McGregor, right? And I don't know, mate. I know you're Scottish. Do you follow Scottish football? Do you have a bit more of an intuition around Scottish football?
I know it. I'm in-depthly following Cal for pretty much his entire career. And look, Bissouma's it's just a far greater player in every element of football than Callum McGregor. But what you have to understand with like football is like things are about systems and cogs. You can have there's a whole bunch of different sixes out there in the world that you can come in and be a way better six than Bissouma. Like Bissouma for me is a box to box guy. Like he can play either one of the eights.
He can play either of the eights, couldn't he?
And it's really dependent. If you're trying, you can make him the perfect six for Ange, but then it's dependent on who's behind him. How is there a double pivot going on with him and the other eight? Like there's a way that you can make him a great. But I also kind of agree with you that he's not the perfect six. There's an adaptation here for him to become the perfect six. But also my greater point was more like look what you can see on him. If you looked at Bissouma when he came to Spurs under like a manager who's just like, no, you have to learn my way. You get up to my speed, and you're not getting in the team until you show me. I'm not going to put my arm around you. Now you can see just with Bissouma, just like how more willing he is to play and how he enjoys the training, enjoys everyone there. Apparently he's like the guy who just everyone loves being around now.
Yeah.
Like last season, you could have looked at him and been like, he's not even a 25 million player. You know, the season before and with Brighton, you're like, he's a 60 million player. Now
100%,
it's kind of like
100%.
he's coming back. And then if you look at the second half, how you could have young players like Alfie dropped in and not lose anything. You know, like you're like, and that's not even his position. He could have been completely uncomfortable in that role, but yet the football and the style of football won. It was almost like you could take Sarah, even though I thought Sarah was amazing. You could put Skip in, and if they all get that style of football, it will just move right. So it's more about with Ange. Obviously, he's got to get the right personnel, because I think if you had Bissouma, Lo Celso, and Maddison like playing at their capability, that's an unbelievable midfield. You could also have, you know, Bissouma, Sarr, Lo Celso, and I don't think you lose much. So it's more about how they do in the system, move the ball fast. It's not about, you know, there was a moment where you saw, you know, Bissouma nutmeg a guy, and you saw him make the second best chance of the game where he really should have scored. But he's the 6 and he's going through into the 6-yard box trying to score. You know, so which
is probably strange, right?
Yes.
If you look, if you watch Postecoglou's, you know it against Celtic, that you didn't really see Callum McGregor doing that. Right, you see him hanging back, like he was the quarterback that sits back and pops the ball around. You don't really see the 6 getting forward, but Bissouma did get forward. You saw Skippy getting himself into ridiculously high positions where he had altitude sickness, like got in all the right spaces, doesn't have the confidence to finish his dinner.
Yeah.
And in the second half, quickly pivoting, like Lo Celso was like the best player on the pitch for me, man of the match, and it makes you sit there and kind of rethink things. Do you need to have
Sean? Just give me 1 second. Hold that thought, or continue that thought. I'm just gonna. Someone's at my door, so I'm gonna.
Crack on. No worries. We're gonna drop out Brains for a second. We're gonna bring in this man right here. Sava's just joined in. Come with the outcome of the man. How are you, Sava?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you?
Good, buddy. Good. Listen, I think maybe I've deliberately waited on the Aston Villa thing because I know you're becoming a little bit of a Villa file over the last couple of hours, like last couple of days. You're celebrating Aston Villa, and he's back now. I'll be bringing him back in. We're gonna wait. We're gonna bring in the Aston Villa conversation in a minute. But the one thing I do think is absolutely pertinent to what Brains was just saying. I don't know if you heard any of it, Sava.
I didn't, mate. So I was on a stream. Sorry.
No worries. And well, everyone in the chat, say hi to Sava. You got to do. Smash the like, get over to his channel. I'm going to put the links up in a little while. Brains was just saying, like, the kind of, you know, the football looks different. Some of these players look like they're taking to it a little bit differently. The switch from Conte to Ange is interesting. And we spoke about this on Henry's show I think it was last night. Look, there's an example of a team that didn't have to change or make wholesale changes to their squad to see a remarkably different version of themselves because of a managerial pivot and a confidence pivot and a different system. And that is Aston Villa. Like maybe you could throw Newcastle in a little bit, but I think Newcastle did make quite a lot of changes, but Aston Villa didn't. And yet Unai Emery to Steven Gerrard was a monumental shift, and everything seemed to go in the right direction. We'll talk about Aston Villa being the big threat that they are in a little while. But Sava, do you think that there are, like to Brains' point, do you think that maybe there's enough talent or more talent in the squad than we gave it credit for under the Conte system? Now that we've got Ange Ball and these players might enjoy playing it a bit better.
Yeah, look, I think I'll answer this in 2 parts. I definitely do think there is more talent than what we were seeing. And I think it's a conversation you and I had a lot last season, Sean, was I truly believe that the players we had could play better football than what we were seeing. And I think, yeah, it's a very small sample size. You know, we like talking about our samples. Take that how you will. But it's a very small sample size. But I was really, really impressed with how quickly it just went like that. Like from the first game, it was, wow, this is different. Yeah. But whilst I believe there is a massive, there is a lot more to the players going that way, I think going this way, I don't think any of those defenders, I don't think it matters what manager you get in there, they're just not good enough. And I think that will always be the undoing of this football club will be, Listen, I can't be a hypocrite. I said last season, at least if we're not going to win anything and we're not going to be a great team, at least entertain me, right? I think we will be entertained this year. But what's frustrating is I feel like it's just minor. I feel like you could bring in two centre halves and a number 6. All of a sudden, I think we're a top 4 team, and I think that is the small twist. But for Daniel Levy, it feels
you go top 4 team, yeah.
I truly believe if you put in Tapsoba and Van der Ven with a proper number 6 in front that can sit and cover. I think if you could even play them more. I think if you went Van der Ven, Tapsoba, Romero, and then someone more attacking like a Porro, right? With a number 6, Maddison, Bissouma, Kane, Son, Kulusevski. Keeping them fit. Obviously, I know you don't only play with 11 players, but keeping them fit for the majority of the games. I think that's a very good team.
Yeah.
But that 3, like we talked about the other day, that triangle at the back, we haven't got any of them. And that's the difference to me between finishing 8th and being a top 4 team.
Yeah. And none more like exaggerated than in that second half where you can watch the different, every player on the pitch in attack is moving the ball beautifully, even like coming out from the back. And there's that movement where, Sanchez and Emerson break the ball down at the back. They go through the pitch and within seconds, they're up at an attack, right? And that is all great. It's all beautiful because when you drill attacking football and learning how to do Ange ball is not the hardest thing. Like learning how to just move the ball fast. There's drills that can just make that muscle memory of one touch or like move, look, one touch, look up, pass. There's ways that you can drill that. So I'm not surprised that that's what we've got quick. The thing that you just, and it's exaggerated in that moment, most of that game, dominating the ball more than I've ever seen us dominate the ball. One time going the other way, goal.
Right.
And it's never been more exaggerated.
Who was on the pitch when that happened, right? So, because I think that it did go through the 6. Like there should have been a 6 there was capable of protecting the back line.
Højbjerg wasn't strong enough, and
Højbjerg was awful
on his heels, not his toes.
And Sanchez,
who was playing next to Sanchez? Was it Emerson or was it
Ben Davies in the second half?
Yeah. So I think we know the answer with regard to the back 4. It's interesting you say that Sava, you think we could get into we could top 4 or top 5, like Champions League level stuff.
Yeah.
How does that reprioritize? Right? So let's say we get Van der Ven and Tapsoba, and there's noise out again, rumors that we're going to get both, but the conversation's a little bit kind of a bit repetitive. If we go through it, we know what we want. We know we have to get it done. It's an incredible frustration that we're not. Did you think that Bissouma? And I'll come to you first on this one, Sava. Did you think that Bissouma showed enough in the first 45 minutes that he can play the 6? Or did you think that he wasn't tested enough defensively to see it? Because the 2 goals we conceded were from set pieces. That's going to be an ongoing problem with Tottenham, with their average height shrinking so much.
Do you know what? It's an interesting one. And again, small sample sizes, so it's really difficult to tell. We're playing against a West Ham team that didn't have really any of the football. You think they had 27% possession in the game. So we'll have a lot more questions answered when we start playing teams that actually want to play some football against us. For me, though, I think, I've said this to you a number of times. I think you're of the same opinion, Sean, that I don't want to see Bissouma in that 6. I think Bissouma is your perfect guy in front of that as your box-to-box. I love Bissouma. I think it was criminal how he was used last year. Absolutely criminal before his injury that we didn't utilize a player of that talent. I think, again, if it's the perfect 3. If you've got Maddison doing what he's doing, right, he'll create, he'll be.
Were you impressed with Maddison?
I thought he looked unfit. I think him and Kane both looked very leggy, but they'd only come back to training 4 days before.
3 days later, whatever.
12 hours of that was a flight to Australia to Australia. But I've got no worries about Maddison there. I've got no worries about Bissouma in the 8, if we want to say that.
Yeah.
Now imagine you stick a proper number 6 that allows those 2 to do their thing. And allows the 2 fullbacks, whoever they are, to go that way. You've got 2 competent centre halves, a number 6 that sits there and does what a number 6 should. All of a sudden now, every time we lose the ball, we won't all be crapping ourselves. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every time we lose the ball now, I'm like, oh my God, Sanchez is there, or oh my God, Romero's going to come steaming in, or Tanganga's just going to kick people. The world of difference through 3 positions.
Yeah,
World of difference.
100%.
Yeah, it's got to be the focus, isn't it? It's like just get those 2 and then that one guy in. And that's not to say that I don't think that you couldn't adapt Bissouma's game because he's an intelligent player. But it's almost like, why would you handcuff a player of that quality? Why not have him like, you know, where he picks up the ball and he nutmegs a guy? We're gonna love watching that. You can't do that as a 6. That's too risky as a 6. You don't want to be.
It's in his nature, Brains, isn't it? It's in his nature. Yeah. When he gets the ball, he is not your static, okay, I've won the ball, let me give it. He is a guy that wants to drive with the ball. Yeah. He wants to go and join in. And that, for me, is why I don't think it ever worked in a 2, where you're saying to him, you can't do that. So, I think we need to get to the point where we stop trying to shoehorn people into positions that aren't theirs and go and buy what, like, I know it sounds that simple, but go and buy what you need. Liverpool have a massive need for central midfielders. They've gone out already. Soboslai, McAllister. They're in talks with Lavia. You know, it's like, it's not rocket science. Where are you weak? Let's go and fix that position.
The annoying thing with that, Sava, is that we've known this for so long.
I know.
Like, it was everything for so long. So I don't know why it wasn't just a case of, and we identified them so early in the window. We identified these 2 players.
Yep.
Get them, and then just have the one thing. And even we could have got Amrabat's been there for a long time. You know, there's other like CDM, like natural CDMs who've been waiting for a long time, and we just capitulate and don't act like a big club. You know, don't you think as well, like we've accumulated so many central midfielders over the last 5 years, but none of them really did anything. Like none of them really had, like, there wasn't an attacking one, there wasn't a defensive one. They kind of just
we've got 95 jack of all trades and we've got no masters of any. I completely agree with you. But to the point, I do feel like under the Conte the rigidity that does. I saw that guy put out that thing saying fluid rigidity or rigid fluidity, whatever it was. Right? And I was like, I love it. I'm gonna be making the most out of that. But I feel like under Conte's lack of rigidity or his lack of fluidity or whatever, like where his system didn't really appreciate anybody. When we have players like Bissouma, they can do jobs in both places. Players like Pape Sarr, who, by the way, I genuinely think right now, if he is not above Skippy in the pecking order, then something is going on the training ground that is bamboozling the minds of not just the previous manager and his coaches, but this manager and his coaches as well. Because for me, I love Ollie Skip. He's a workhorse. And you need your show ponies and you need your workhorses, right? You do need a little bit of combination, but Pape Sarr for me has got the legs. He's got the temperament. He's got the timing. He's got the balance within his own. He looks
an athlete, doesn't he? Isn't it worrying though? Then I say worrying. I say that word a lot. I shouldn't. It's probably why I've got these lines on my head. Like, he's been here 2. He's been here 2 years, right? And no manager at any point
given him the time
has given him the time. And the thing is, you hear a lot of fans saying like what you've just said, going, "Oh, I really like Sarr. I really like Sarr. He looked good when he came on." And
has he ever put in a bad shift? Has he ever had a nightmare?
I've never seen a bad shift.
Look, the Newcastle game, he was the scapegoat, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you could say anyone, but I thought he did well when he came on against Crystal Palace. I thought he did really well, really, really well at the San Siro when him and Skippy had to play. But no manager has seemed to go, you know what? Yeah, let's give him a go. And I wouldn't mind it if we had a brilliant midfield. You know, and it was hard to get an opportunity, but they automatically go Højbjerg, Skip.
Yeah. And that's what you've got. Yeah. But I think that's because what you're dealing with there, and, you know, dressing rooms are always like that. Like, you need big kind of characters in dressing rooms, and even not big personality characters, but someone like Højbjerg is someone that all the kind of players can respect. And then if he's, he can lift like a couple players. And I see Sarr as like, he's not that. He's reserved. He's quiet. He's quite funny, but he's like, just, he's not going to go and say, this is my changing room, or like, this is my position. He's not that guy. And then that's what they talk about leaders and not having someone who can, but his game suggests that he could be that character, that he could just dominate. Because I've seen him against players, I don't know if it was Tonali, but there was some, like, even in the Prem, players who he should not just easily shrug off the ball. And I've seen him just like almost flick them away. Like he's got real strength, and so I just think it's just a character thing. He's not, when you've got some big names in a dressing room like Kane, and you've got big name players like Bentancur and Kulusevski, and he's just Romero. I guess he's just not that kind of in your face guy. But I think, and I would hope that a coaching staff which Ange has put together, and him being a little bit more of like Uncle Ange, I would hope that he would see that in certain players. I feel the same with Alvey and Harvey and all these kind of players coming up from the 21s and the youth. They're not going to feel comfortable enough to be like, I'm here. I better get, you know what I mean? They're just going to be quiet, and you're not going to ever really feel that you can throw them in hardcore situations.
That was what was really pleasing for me about the second half. The second half, obviously, which was the weaker of the two teams on paper.
Yeah.
They all came in with that energy, and it was really nice to see Sarr, young players, Sarr, Doji, Divine, who I thought showed some lovely little touches, got into the box.
Alfie Devine didn't look out of place at all, did he?
No, I thought he was really, really good. And
would you keep him around the squad?
Yeah. Do you know what?
Don't loan him. Keep him. Yeah?
I think the worry for me is when you loan players, unless it's a match made in heaven, right? What I mean by that, unless
you forget about them a little bit, don't you? Yeah.
You do, but also when players tend to go on loan, they'll go on loan to a club that might play a very different style of football to what you want them to play, right? So, for example, if we were going to send him to a team that sits with 10 men behind the ball, and Divine is going to spend, a season running around, chasing people, tackling work, that's great.
And might not get minutes there either. Like, how many times do we loan players out who then sit on the bench at the other club? Well, what's the point?
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, just quickly, John Fitzpatrick, when you said top 4, this team is miles away. This is the point. Right now it is. You had the ingredients you need, and you don't know. No one said Arsenal would finish second last year. No one thought they'd be in a title race. No one thought Newcastle would finish top 4. Nobody, you know what I mean? Nobody thought Aston Villa and Brighton would finish above Tottenham Hotspur. You just don't know.
I think the gap between the maybe take Man City out of it, like they're obviously going to be miles ahead. But apart from that, from 2nd to 10th, the gap is not. It's small. I think it's smaller than it's ever been. Maybe, I don't know. We can talk about Arsenal if you need to. But I do want to pivot just quickly. Before we do, there's nearly 600 people watching, which is absolutely insane. I've added Sava's Football Heritage TV link into the title. Get over there and subscribe to him if you haven't already. Brains, do you have anything you need me to be plugging for you, or are you just here for the shits and giggles?
I'm not, just my Spotify, Brains McLeod on Spotify. Always just releasing new records and stuff. So yeah, just check that out.
Brains McLeod on Spotify. I'm going to see if I can find that and add it to the title as well. I do want to talk a little bit about Aston Villa, right? Because I know I waited for Sava to jump in. I know other couple of people are going to be here soon, but like we're talking about, we need the 2-3 players to make it the big deal. There's a massive, like I've seen it on Twitter all day long, this wave of admiration for Aston Villa, and I have to agree, right, that they're punching. They really are punching, and that Tottenham aren't technically. And I think that before I get into why I'm like annoyed by the comparisons, I want to at least be balanced and show you why I think that this is a damning insight into Tottenham Hotspur. This was Aston Villa's revenue. Turnover in 2021-22 is £180 million. Right, Tottenham have 2.5 times the amount of revenue. The rules around FFP, there's more to it than just about 70, 80, 90% caps and things. There's more around you can't owe clubs money, you can't be in debt to other clubs, you can't have too many. Like there's more to it than just the simplicities. But let's focus on the simplicities. Aston Villa made £180 million in revenue last year. And if I show you where is it? Oh, have I lost it? Their wage bill. I can't find it right now. But I promise you it was right. Their wage bill last year was 130 million.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
What's ours?
So ours is about the same as theirs, maybe slightly higher than theirs. But we've got the lowest wage to revenue ratio in the top 5 leagues of football. Right? So we don't have we haven't got a particularly stretched wage bill. We have revenues that are 480 million from memory. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Aston Villa are 2.5 times weaker than that. And yet they can go out and spend the money that they're spending. And I'll bring this one up. Let's go to share this tab instead. So they've just signed Pau Torres. He's got an initial market valuation of 45 million. This isn't their sorry, this is the current season's transfers. Here we go. I don't know if you guys can see this.
Yep.
So they spent 33 million on Torres. They've spent nothing on Yuri Tillemans. They haven't updated this to represent the guy they've just signed from Leverkusen. How much did they spend for that? Was it 40 million?
I think it was 50 million euros, bang on, from what I've read.
Euros.
Who were they? Was it Moussa Diaby? They got
Moussa Diaby, yeah. He's a wonderful player. So look, where I want to go with this is basically to say that their willingness to push the boat out, their willingness to take risk, it's reminiscent of Arsenal, right? Arsenal don't have the revenues yet that Tottenham do. We have 15% higher revenues than they do. We have more profitability, like in earnings before interest and tax, but like not net profit because we end up with a loss, but EBITDA, we have higher than all those clubs. And yet Tottenham are not willing to push the boat out. Aston Villa are pushing the limits of their FFP. If they only have revenues, even with Europe this year, they won't break 200 million in revenues, yet their wage bill is going to have gone up because of these people signing, and their expenses have gone up as well to the tune of nearly 70% of their overall revenue. It's a risk that they're taking that if it doesn't work out, they'll end up falling foul of rules like Everton did. Their board are either incredibly smart accountants that have long-term plans to get around the system, similar to how Chelsea are figuring out the solutions. Because I'll tell you what, 6 months ago, Sava will know, I was on Sava's channel all day long saying, Chelsea are going to really struggle. I don't know where Chelsea are going to find the ability to sell these players. I wasn't aware that Saudi Arabia was on the horizon like they currently are. But even without Saudi Arabia, they've still managed to get teams to buy the players that they don't need. So they're doing well. But Aston Villa, you have to applaud their risk appetite. And Tottenham, you have to look at it on paper and say, what the hell is going on? I've never been more sympathetic to the Levy out argument than I am right now, because there's never been a bigger demonstration of the lack of risk tolerance, the risk profile, the risk averse mindset that he has versus clubs that we weren't even competing with a couple of years ago. But now Tottenham fans are looking at Aston Villa and saying that they're a bigger draw than us. It didn't have to happen. I don't know whether Aston Villa is going to work out for them, because I do think they're pushing their boundaries. They haven't got the same revenue streams as Tottenham have, but they're pushing those limits. And I'd love to get your guys' opinions on what your thoughts are about, first of all, teams like Aston Villa, but secondly, what it means for us. Is it shambolic that we're not taking the same risk as those sorts of teams?
Look, I think the thing is, because I've said a few nice things about Villa. I mean, I've seen posts going around with me in a Villa shirt and things like that. It's all good fun, which is really funny. Look, we had this conversation a while back, Sean, in a WhatsApp group. Remember, I said that I felt that Aston Villa would show ambition. I thought that Aston Villa, not only would they show ambition, but they would actually go out and plug what needs plugging. And I think that's what they're demonstrating. Every club, it's a risk, right? When you sign players, of course, it's a risk. We're not talking about me and you going to buy a pair of shoes to see what's happened. Right? Sorry, buying a pair of shoes. We're talking about £50 million footballers. Some work, some don't. But what it shows more than any of this for me, it shows a willingness to say, right, we got in the manager we want. We've seen nice and early on the effect he can have. What do you need now? What is it that you now need to take this club further? Now, the whole, are they bigger? Are they better? I don't care about all that. Both clubs can't sit here and scream raging success in the last 20 years. But what I do care about is a club we've been above for a very, very, very long time, get into Europe and they go, right, there's 50 million euros on a player of the talent of Diaby. There's 32 million on a centre-back that, whether we have fans that rate him or not, it's a player that has worked for years under Unai Emery, and Unai Emery will know him inside out, and he will make Aston Villa better defensively.
Yep.
Tielemans on a free. Okay, it's a free, but again, adding squad depth. Now the reports today are that they've gone out and bid for Jeremy Doku as well. It just seems that what they're doing is not rocket science. They're not reinventing the wheel. It is, what do we need? Let's go and back the manager. And the telling thing for me, guys, is they put in their first bid for Diaby 8 days ago. 8 days ago.
Yeah.
They had 2 bids rejected in that time, went in with a third and got a here we go, which is obviously how we all rate football now via Romano, got a here we go in 8 days whilst fending off a team from Saudi Arabia. Spurs, first, to Mark Henry's words, Henry did his first video about Van der Ven on June the 23rd, right? It's July the 21st, right? And we're talking about a player there, Sean, that is 30 to 35 million euros, which is the price being talked about, right? Villa just went in 1 week. Bang, 50 million euros.
But does that demonstrate, Brains, I'll come to this one, does that demonstrate, like, is it ambition or could it be considered slightly reckless? And I'm not saying it is either way. Like, I would love to have, as a fan, I don't really care. Maybe I care personally more about the finances. If you know the channel, you know what I'm about more than most do, because I'm in that world and I think those things are important. But generally speaking, as a football fan, it doesn't bother me whether we spend 5 million extra or not. I'm not going to sit here and defend it. But when you look at things like David Raya, Brentford wanted 40. They brought in Mark Flecken. Mark Flecken's promised first team football. They were assuming they'd get 40 million for Raya. They haven't yet. It's still a yet to be confirmed, obviously. And now they've got 2 footballers that are world-class goalkeepers that are going to be competing for the same minutes, and nobody else has come in. Tottenham didn't want to pay it. We went elsewhere. Time will tell whether Vicario is a good bit of business or not. But the fact that nobody else has paid the money my point is the example that, or the demonstration that, because you go and speak to a club, find out what they want, and you end up paying it within a week or 2, does that necessarily mean that you're doing good business?
Yeah, I think it does mean that, but it's like, look, you have to speculate to accumulate, but not just that. You have to do it at the right time when the market suggests, and for what position you are in your club's history. They are now back up here. They're back up with us. They're back up near the top 6. They're in Europe. You know, like if they didn't, accumulate right now with these players, if they didn't do that right now, it would have been reckless to me. So I'm not surprised at all. I'm maybe a little bit slightly surprised in Diaby and their ability to do that deal as quick as they are, and also extremely jealous being that we're going to argue over 5 million with a guy who's not even going to come and be a first teamer, Like, so I just don't. We get angry as Spurs fans because it reflects on like us, and then we get really angry because it's like, look at what we need. We know what we need. We've identified the guys. Like, bring them in. Like, what are we waiting for? then we have to realize like their journey is a little bit different. They're at a point where it's either now or never for them, right? Like say they don't. You've got Unai. He's proved himself. He's shown. Give me your squad, whatever. I'll make it better, right? He's got real credibility and on winning things in Europe as well. Give him the team he wants. He will go and win you a Europa League. Like
but Brains, don't you think a lot of it as well is, strengthen from a position of strength, which is where Spurs have completely failed in the last 23 years. Every time we get to a point where you're like, oh, imagine what we could do now if we added this. Now, listen, by the way, I'm not saying Aston Villa are all singing, all dancing, guaranteed top 4, going to win trophy. No, I'm not at all. Aston Villa are going to struggle in some portions of the season because they're going to have to adapt to playing European football as well.
Yeah, it's going to be huge.
But what they're doing is they're going out and they've identified, right, we're poor at the back. Pau Torres, right, and Moreno, who they got in the last window. Right, straight away, 2 defenders who make their defence much more solid. Right, where else are we poor? All right, we score some goals, but Leon Bailey's a bit in and out. Let's go and get Moussa Diaby. All right, we might lose Dendonka or we might lose John McGinn or whoever it may be. Let's put Tielemans in there for squad depth. I'm not saying we should have got him, but I'm just saying for them, they're identifying where their weaknesses are and getting the deal done. And for me, like, it doesn't have to be Sean, like what you're saying. Yeah, obviously, if a club just says we want this money, just paying it doesn't necessarily mean it's great business. Yeah, but if it's
because you can make the argument like we're demanding X amount of money for Harry Kane, and we are obviously going to talk about Harry Kane in a short minute. But if Bayern Munich was just to sit there and say, or Bayern Munich fans right now were saying we're 6 weeks into our transfer window, we need a striker.
Yeah.
And why are we messing around? I'm sure there's Bayern Munich fans that are out there probably saying, I don't follow their fan channels, but they're probably fans saying, just pay the money. Just pay the 100 million quid, get it done. But like,
I think the difference is, Sean, when you're at that level, like look how long it took Arsenal to get the Rice deal done, because we're talking about £105 million, loads of add-ons. There'll be loads of stuff in the clauses. I think that the frustration with a lot of Spurs fans,
30 million quid, it shouldn't be a big deal.
Is that we're talking about you could get Van de Ven and Tapsoba for 80 million euros between them, and if they are not the choice, like if Spurs have gone there and they've said, we want 50 million for Tapsoba, 50 million euros, if that is a number that they won't budge on and we are not prepared to pay, right? There would have been some inkling on that 4 weeks ago when we first went in. Where's you shut up, you? Sorry, the dog got mad. Who's behind that? All right, where's like we all say Van de Ven and Tapsoba a lot because they're the two that we knew were the first choice. Yeah, it doesn't have to be them, but where's the ones behind that? Who's and that is the frustration. Van de Ven is a 22-year-old centre back with a lot of ability, a lot of promise. And Spurs, we can't even get him over the line in 4 weeks. Villa go, we'll have Diaby. What do you want? 50 minutes? Cool, we'll go for that.
If we get them both done, and we get them both done when there's still 2 or 3 pre-season fixtures left to play, are you happy not to pivot away from the centre backs? But I think we all know the centre back situation. Gavin, are you happy? I'll start with you, man. This one. Are you happy if we get Van de Ven and Tapsoba done? Would you be happy if there was no more business? What would you give that window?
I mean, that's a tough one. I'm just so worried we don't that I would have to be happy, right? It's like, get your expectations low, right? So
is the thought of Ndombele coming back? I mean, I see you in the WhatsApp. I see you
I'm out there in the streets being like, no.
But like we got people in the WhatsApp group, Simeon from We Are Tottenham TV, who's banging the Ndombele drum. We don't know what version of him, but we have seen a different, like we've seen a little small glimpse of Lo Celso. Maybe there's more ability in that kind of the rest of the upper end of the pitch than we give credit for generally. Maybe we just need those 2 centre backs. Do you then share the same enthusiasm that Sava has? And Sava said, if we get Van de Ven and Tapsoba, Sava thinks that we're top 4. And I'm going to assume, if you're saying that, Sava, I know you're not putting your neck on the line, but it's just I'm not going to hold you to it. But like, if you're saying that, then that means Man City first, probably Arsenal second, maybe Man United third, and then after that, Tottenham could easily outperform Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton, Villa.
I just think the opportunity
and Liverpool, by the way. Sorry, Liverpool.
Yeah,
well.
I've got look as it stands at the moment. Thus far, Sean, I would say that Liverpool for me are second favourites. If I'm brutally honest,
Liverpool second.
Yeah,
okay.
but either way, my point is this: I think that if we are not in Europe, right? Obviously, we're not. We're not in Europe. You've got a chance to play one game a week. You've got a chance to build a team for the first time in years. You've got a chance to build a team that doesn't need to have a squad of 25, 30 players all trying to fit them in and rotate them for Europe. You've got a team that, barring injuries, you can pretty much keep the same each week. So if you go out and get those two centre-halves, you go out and get that defensive midfielder, I truly believe there's a good side there. But the problem is, it's so night and day. The drop-off without those three players is monumental. Yeah, and like Brain said, we saw it. I don't remember West Ham being in our half other than that moment in the second half. I don't remember them doing a thing and then goal.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. It's like you bring in a new style of football and that's amazing. And you think, okay, and now with like when we're seeing people like Lo Celso and if Tanguy has a renaissance at our club, brilliant, right? Even if he's only good for bringing on in that, because how Ange uses the 60 and then the 80. So if he's good to just come on for the last 10 minutes, fair enough, right? And you can definitely see that this attacking style of football has some real merit to it, right? And it's early. When they get cooking, when they get in their mind that this is how we play, it's going to be incredible. But if you do not have the centre backs, if you do not have the cover for the centre backs, if you do not have the way out to move the ball quickly out the back, then it will not matter. And we will just play very good attacking football at times and we will get carved open and get smashed. And that's why, people are still bantering us thinking that we're going to be down in the bottom end and near relegation, because you just look at the defense and you go, even with Romero, who he takes huge risks. And that first half showed Tanganga's not a bad defender, but just look how shaky that defense was in the first half. It was so shockingly shaky, So you don't just need good players to play Ange ball. You need incredible players, fast, strong, dominators, confident. Like even with Mickey van de Ven, the reason that I really actually said he was my first choice centre back to come in was because he's unbelievably fast.
Yeah, he's so fast.
Tackle. And also you could have Romero, if Romero calmed down and grew a little bit more confidence and was a little bit more of a leader at the back, you could have Romero and top Silva, and then you could have Van de Ven as the left-sided fullback, who then comes inverted, and you've got a little bit more cover. So you're just strengthening really solid defenders, and you're also offering some pace, and you're maybe letting a doggy come on as a winger in the last 20 and just let's go for them, So I just think you don't get those in. Say we go and just bring in a decent centre back. It doesn't mean it's going to work.
Yeah, if we end up with like Tosin and Victor Nelson, we got problems. I'm still confident that we're going to get the players that we need, but I also completely accept and acknowledge the fact that these things shouldn't take as long as they do. There's very few other clubs that deal at the level that we're dealing with that take as long as they do. Just before we move on with the conversation, I forgot to get through these. Big up to Tottenham Hotspur, mate. Massive thank you for the support. Become a new member of the channel. Really appreciate that. And for what it's worth, I am going to be starting. I keep saying this, but the only reason I haven't started it yet is because my Wi-Fi is so temperamental. But the guys were outside my house last night, digging up the road, putting in the fiber optic for box broadband. So I should be all good to go very soon. And once I am, I'll be doing live streams every day, and I'll be doing the member phone-in. So thank you very much, Lee. And also Phil P in the house. What's happening, Phil? Woo! He said, question, what comes first? Sean gets to 100,000 subs. Or Spurs sign a centre-back.
Sean's 100K. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and that's not a testament to my channel. That's an indictment of how bad Daniel Levy is. Yeah. Appreciate you, Phil. Appreciate you, mate. Thanks very much.
It's funny, Sean, right? I mean, it really, really is funny that, like Brain said earlier, this isn't a problem at Tottenham that has crept up. This isn't something that we suddenly have lost 2 top centre backs and gone, oh my God, what do we do? We've known about this for about, I'm going to say it. People, you know what I'm about to say, Sean. People will hate it. We have not bought a decent centre. We have not bought a top centre half since Jan and Toby's demise. I don't mind Romero. You know what I'm like on this subject, Sean.
No, I agree with you.
I think he's got a lot. I think he's got a lot to prove. I think
he's overrated. He's like when you go to a nightclub. When you go to a nightclub with a bunch of boys, and if you're in like, I don't know, Magaluf, and you got your 6 mates with you, and you happen to hook up on day 1 with like 6 birds from, I don't know, Ireland or Torquay or wherever, Newcastle or whatever, and they're all 4s, but there's one bird in there that's a 5.5, and you happen to get hold of her. You're the guy that gets her. You're going, she's a Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
she's a Rolls Royce on the holiday. Is she not?
Look, but Romero
ain't that great. He's not that great.
By the way, Sean, I think because I talk about Romero a lot, people think I hate him. I don't. I just think I've never seen a player make as many mistakes and have as many bad games he does and be excused the way Romero is.
You're excusing yourself in the holiday scenario of like you've got the pig with lipstick on.
Yeah, listen, absolutely. Listen,
pig, bro. You know.
It's a big season for him. If we do bring in Sober and Van der Ven, it gives you options. But then if you do bring in those centre halves, there can be no more excuses when he does the rash, silly things, he does the mistakes. But we've known, my whole point to this was from 5 years ago when Toby and Jan started to, they started to look their age and they couldn't run anymore. And from that moment, we have done nothing to sort this defence out. Like in 5 years, our defensive signings in 5 years, let's just a real quick off the top of my head, right? In those 5 years, Tottenham Hotspur have signed Serge Aurier, Emerson Royale, Jed Spence, Reguilon, Perisic for the left wing back. We've signed Longley on loan. We've signed Joe Rodon. And we've had Davis, Tanganga, Sanchez and Dyer who have been there forever. Yeah. How can one club not address the problem area in 5 years? That for me is when people go, oh, you're moaning for the sake of moaning, or oh, you can't have everything in one window. I don't think anyone's asking for everything in one window. We've been asking for centre-backs for 5 years.
Can you imagine this window ends and we don't get these two? It's just...
No, if we end up with nobody or just one, but that one is of the level down that we're looking at, the Victor Nelson, the Ashley Phillips, the Tosin. Not that I think there's still an improvement on what we have, but I think that listen, someone like me who, I'll be forever in the mud because I've defended Daniel Levy in the past for like logic-based arguments when people are throwing mud at him for everything and anything. And I don't agree with all that stuff. But right now, like I say, I've never been closer to the Levy out argument than I am right now. I feel like there's proven testimonies of other clubs that don't have the resources that we do, that are throwing money at problems to go again. Arsenal are doing it. Newcastle have done it. They pushed their limits to FFP. We're nowhere near FFP. FFP is so far away that the line is like a dot to us. It's so far away that there's no real excuse, especially when we're going through such a massively transformational period. And you've got to give Ange what he needs.
But Sean, here's a question for you, right? Like, why is there, once you've identified clear targets, one's come in to London, been picked up, been seen to be picked up by Spurs members, sat down with the manager. The manager has said he likes him, and a fee with him has been agreed. Like, why are we not? So then it makes you think, okay, look, did Ange say, I'm going with this squad, I want to have a look at I'm not the guy who's just going to dismiss people. I don't care that on fan forums and statistically Spurs have had the worst defense, multiple seasons in a row. I'm going to give Joey Rodon a try and see what they're like. I'm going to give Romero. And then you hear him say things like, if I'm honest with you, some players are not going to want to be here. Some
Yeah.
players are not going to like this. Suggesting that he's actually seeing live that some players just can't play this football. But then it's like, surely Levy's over there. Surely he's going to them every night going, look, it's even worse than I thought. You know, like, why have we not bring them in and get them over there right now to adapt now? Because this moment that they're drilling very important things right now, this is where they have to be. Like, they've got to be there now. You know, so for me, it's just like, it's so mind-boggling. Why do you think that is? What if you just try to put a Levy hat on, like, or a Scott Munn? Is it Scott Munn not being there? Is there the hold up in Man City that's stopping this? Why have they not brought him?
I think you have to just shake hands with reality. Like, if it's the same tale of the tape that you've seen for the previous 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And listen, I used to kind of, and I hold my hands up, mate. Like, when I first came into the community, I'm a contrarian personality. So, like, I'll always like to debate people, right? But when people were saying things like, you wanted Bruno Fernandes, you got Gedson Fernandes. You wanted Jack Grealish. It was a £5 million difference. Like, there was a logic. There is a logic to say, well, no one paid the difference. No one paid when Aston Villa were in the Championship and they wanted the extra £5 million for Jack Grealish, to say to Daniel Levy, you know, you're a mug for paying the money, or for not paying the money, because look what happened with Harry Hindsight goggles on. Look how this guy, nobody else went there. And I'll stand by that. I will stand by that reality. And I'm using it again with David Raya. When people say, why didn't he pay David Raya? Why didn't he pay the 40 million for David Raya? Well, no one else has either. And there's a lot of smart chairmen out there. A lot of goalkeepers are needed by a lot of big clubs, and yet no one's paid Brentford's asking price. So there is that narrative. However, what I'm seeing more and more is that, I guess, the things that a lot of people saw maybe before me, and maybe I had the wrong goggles on, but that Daniel Levy just doesn't ever want to see the valuate. He holds his own assets in higher regard. If he thinks that someone wants his player, then he immediately prices them out. And if he wants someone else's player, then he immediately prices them lower. And it's a common theme, and it's been a common theme for a long time. And it's becoming.
Do you know the worry, Sean? The worry for me is this, right? And I'm not saying we should have got this guy before everyone jumps on me. I know what people in chats are like, right? But you think Leicester City just got relegated and went and signed Connor Cody, right? Who, for me, is better than all our defenders other than Romero. Right? Now, listen, I'm not saying we should have got Connor Cody. That's not the point of my story. But how worrying is that Championship sides have got a better quality defender than, I mean, I'd take Cody over Dyer, over Sanchez, over Tanganga, over Roden, over Longley. I'm not even asking Spurs to go and buy the best centre-backs in the world. That's never, ever been what I've said. You know me, I've always said I don't think Laporte's will come. I don't think Vardial's will come. I mean, look, Man City are struggling to get Vardial over the line, right? I've always said, just get proper defenders that want to defend. It's not difficult. Every other club seems to be able to get these things done, but there's always an excuse as to why we can't. There's always an excuse. Like last year, you remember in the summer last year, guys, when it was people like Ali Gul. I'm not blaming Ali Gul, but they put out reports going, right, here are the 10 centre-backs that Spurs want this window. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'd take 7 of that 10. And then by the end of the window, none of them have come in. And you're getting Longley on loan, and you just think to yourself, hang on, there's defenders out there. Crystal Palace in the last 2 years have bought in Guehi and Anderson. Newcastle have bought in Sven Botman. Arsenal managed to get Saliba and have now gone and got Urian Timber. None of these players are extortionate prices, but they've all managed to go and get the centre-backs they need. We're still seeing... Tanganga, Dyer, Sanchez, Davis. It's shocking.
And the fact that they've done it with the revenues that they've had that have all been generally less than Tottenham. I know that. Listen, I'm going to still draw on my financial experience to refer to the fact that earnings before interest and tax and all that stuff is different to what your net profit is. But the rules of FFP have changed now. It's not about remaining within profitability. It's now around limits around your revenue spend. So when that changes, your approach has to change. And you've seen Chelsea come in like after the post-Abramovich era. Yes, Chelsea had the benefit of losing $1 billion. By the way, Dave, welcome to the show, mate. Hope you're doing well, my man. You've seen that the rules have changed, and you've seen the appetite for risk has changed in accordance from certain other clubs, but you haven't seen it with Tottenham. I understood it when the rules were different and we had the stadium debt, and then you could refer to Arsenal. Like it took them 8 years to get out of that kind of quagmire. When they built their stadium, they didn't win a trophy for 8 years, and that was the longest gap in Arsenal's trophy drought for decades and decades and decades. There was different rules, different applications, and Daniel Levy was doing, in my opinion, very well under those circumstances to try to compete without going down the sugar daddy path. But the rules around FFP have now changed away from profitability to net spend around revenue. And Tottenham's revenue is up here. We're nowhere near FFP, and we're still competing as though it's about a profitability issue, and it's not. It's now around a revenue issue. And when the rules change, you have to adapt. And Tottenham look like an oil tanker moving at sea, and it takes too long. Yeah. And if Arsenal can go out and spend 75 million on Kai Havertz and 105 million, 110 million, whatever it is, on Declan Rice, and 40 on Jurrien Timber, and two of those players are like Kai Havertz is their second highest spend of the summer, but he dwarfs Tottenham's greatest spend ever by 20%, and they still have 10% less revenue than Tottenham do. Like I can't be an idiot and say that doesn't tell you a tale. And then you look at Aston Villa and what they're doing, their spend relative to their revenue, it's insane. Chelsea have got the cleverest accountants in the world. Like surely they're, no one knew about Saudi Arabia for sure. I get it. But like, to me, it's like I say, I've never been closer to the Levy out argument than I am right now. It's furious. Dave, how you doing, mate? Welcome to the show. I'm going to let you come in. We're talking about, generally speaking, where we're at. We haven't got to the Harry Kane conversation yet. I'm going to, after in a minute, we're going to pivot to the Harry Kane, the comments that Ange Postecoglou.
Speciality.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. But before we do, mate, like, where are you at with regards, just where Tottenham are at, and then when you compare them to the likes of Villa or Chelsea or Arsenal and the business that they're doing and what we're doing, like, how do you feel right now, mate?
Frustrated. You know, it's a bit like last summer. You start off nice and strong, and then all of a sudden it sort of comes to a halt. But it's the centre-back issue that's really frustrating me. I get that everyone wants to be positive around Ange, and believe me, I enjoyed what I saw the other day. But it's not about just the style of play. It's also about winning. And we need to bolster up that back line in order to win games. Because if not, the only change that we've made is the style of play. So if we really want to go on and start winning games, we need to bring in these centre-backs. Look, we've changed the structure at board level. We've changed managers, changed coaching staff. We've changed full-backs, wing-backs, centre midfielders, done stuff up in the forward line. But for whatever reason, this club is very, very hesitant to do it in that centre-back region, and they will not take no for an answer. They think that these managers are going to come in and improve the current options we've currently got there, and it's just not the case. But, I have a feeling that, like, the thing is, we put ourselves into this situation. We've offered these guys high wages that any other club that's interested in them, because the level they're at, they ain't going to be able to pay them wages. You're probably talking a half or a third of what they're currently on. So then these guys are also no longer in a rush to leave the club because they're on such big contracts. And the club won't bring in centre-backs while they're currently here, purely because they're not going to carry them wages over once the transfer window closes. So for me, I just think it's absolutely frustrating because there's so much positivity around the club that hasn't been there for such a long time, for years. And all of a sudden now they're just, with the ticket increments, not bringing in centre backs, the same news coming out about Van de Ven and Tapsoba every single day. It's just becoming frustrating. You look at other clubs around us who have made Europe ahead of us. They're all doing their business, looking to consolidate that. And if we do not do the centre backs, we are going to be left behind. It's absolutely criminal. I just can't believe they haven't done it before the pre-season tour. But the reason why they're not going to bring in guys when we've got the current guys there is because we have a wage budget, whether we like it or not, we have to adhere to it. And I have no doubt that wage budget is broken down into certain positions, how much they think theoretically they can spend out on each position. And when you look at what we've got at centre-back region, you're probably talking about, 500,000 a week, and I don't think the club would want to take much more on in that department. So until we find a way of shifting guys out off the high wages, Daniel Levy's never going to bring in centre-backs over
Dave,
as
can
much
I
as
ask you a question on that? Let me ask you a question, Dave, right? Listen, I agree with you, but again, this comes back to the speculating to accumulate, right? So, at the end of the day, yeah, those defenders are there, but they'll be comfortable because they know that they're going to be played. Like we said the other night, if Spurs went and got Van de Ven and Tapsoba, for example, okay, you carry a bit of extra wages for a while, but that then in turn makes those other defenders go, well, I'm not getting a game here. Go to your agent and say, I'm not going to get a game. Get me out there. Go and whereas before it was, oh, let's test the water. Now it's get me out. I need to go. And the problem is until we're in that mindset, not us as fans, by the way, Tottenham Hotspur, until Tottenham get in that mindset, nothing's going to change because we're about to see Eric Dyer for the 10th year in a row. Like let that sink in, people. 10 years. But this is that guy.
This is the problem, though, Sava. Like when it comes to these guys, they're not in any rush to move, and the club aren't putting them in a position to hurry them out the door. But even if we did bring in guys, I still don't think they're going anywhere. Ben Davies is on 85k a week till he's 33 years of age. He ain't moving anytime soon. Eric Dyer.
I don't think that they're the concerns, though. If I'm brutally honest, I think that I think that Ben Davies and Dyer will be there this year. I think they're both still in contract, and I think they'll let Dyer run out, whatever. And you need some backups, right? Cool. I think though that with Sanchez, with Tanganga, with Rodon, I think you can shift these players. It's just whether or not we're going to take the lower fee. Right?
But Sam, they don't want to take the reduction in wages either. They do not want the reduction in wages.
Sure.
Their motivation is money, not football.
That is really the crux of it, though, is like players, like we look at it like we're fans of a club. They're looking at it like, this is my life. This is my livelihood. Like last season when Sanchez got brought on, made a mistake, got taken off, got booed off, and it was a horrible moment. I would have thought for the pride of a player that he would have been like, tear my contract up now. I'm leaving tomorrow. And then you see, nope, it's not like that for them. The reality is they are jobbing professionals who are like, no, I'm in contract to get this amount of money until my contract ends, or you send me somewhere where I get equivalent payments. And then you start going like, and we know we have a Levy and an ideology that breeds the way he does business, which is we balance books. We are not going to have inflated, and then you start to go, well, is this whole waiting and this whole stack up and stopped and paused and overthinking, is this all down to the fact that we've got potentially a big offer for one of our biggest stars, and maybe we could do something if we just get him out, and then because why are we still looking at your Conor Gallagher's and we've got so many attacking mids and eights, and why are we still looking for them? Like we just need 2 centre backs. We've got 3 surplus to requirement guys who they don't want to be here. We don't want them here. Why is it so hard? And then you come to the situation where you go, maybe if you're just going Occam's razor and you see this hanging over you, like maybe there is a capitulation on the idea of, look, can we keep Kane here? Are we really going to risk? I mean, I know Levy will be like, no, 100 million or nothing, but are we really going to turn down? Is Levy going to turn down 90 million plus add-ons to keep a guy who might not fit the system, who might want to be somewhere else? Then they start to think, maybe let's just see how Harry goes over this tour. And if at the end of the tour he goes, I want to go, okay, then we just go out and we do all our business because we'll have such a bigger pot. That's my suspicion. It may get a little bit crazy.
Just quickly, I just want to mention on that. Of course, I get it. It's about the salaries they're on, etc. But at what point in the players have a very short career? At what point in their careers do Sanchez, Tanganga, what point do Sanchez, Tanganga, and Rodon, especially those 3 that don't really get game time, At what point do they look at this and go, I've got to go somewhere and have a career. Like, I've got to go and play. Like, I'd be interested to see how many games of football between Rodon and Tanganga they've actually played in their career, right? At what point do you say that? You know, and again, Sanchez, do you remember, Sean, we jumped on a show last Monday. So what, we're going back, what's that? We're going back, 12 days now? And it was a bid came in for Sanchez.
Yeah.
It's still, what's happened? Like, why is he not gone? Why is he still here? Why is there no news on that? Like, it just beggars belief.
How many players have Chelsea traded this summer?
11 have gone.
11 have gone and 7 have come in.
11 have gone. Yeah, I think they've signed quite a few younger players, but yeah.
So like
18
either way, whatever. 18. I mean, I'm sure the younger players are not as complicated and complex in the deals, but like 18 players, it's like a food court, right? Tottenham is like a
revolving door.
Yeah, it's a revolving door at Chelsea, and at Tottenham it feels like you're struggling to find the fire exit in an emergency because they haven't like put in the LED lights to let you know which way is the way out. Like there's no movement. You got Harry Winks is the only person that's left the club.
Yeah. That's because the players run the club, though, and it's been like that for the last few years. We're sitting there every single season begging people to perform, hoping loan players that haven't worked out before come back and perform. You know, we let the players dictate whether they want to train, whether they don't, whether they fancy a manager, whether they don't. They dictate when he gets sacked. They go up to Daniel Levy when they don't like things. The players are running this football club. With Chelsea and other clubs, it's different. The man from the top runs that football club and he sets the stall out. You know, and that's the difference. We allow players to do what they want around here without forcing them out. We could get these players out the door sooner if we brought in players and showed a bit more ambition and made it very, very clear to them. But I've always argued this with some of these guys at Tottenham over the last few years. The reason why they get them sacked is because they don't want to lose their livelihood. Football, in my opinion, on some of these guys, is not their first priority. The money and the lifestyle that comes with the game is.
Yeah.
Do you think that the manager is a good point? Do you think the manager has any sway in that issue? Conte was talking about selfish players, all that stuff, right? Postecoglou's come in. I'm going to bring up. So it's a good segue. We can use it. Let me get it up on the screen because there was a couple of comments in here that. I don't know. Like, well, we can go through it together and figure out. But essentially, this is the thing that obviously I put in the thumbnail. That Postecoglou's finally spoken out about the Harry Kane situation, and it says, "I'll see if I can get it up so you can read it in front of me." Can you see the screen? Is it up there? Oh, it's not up there. Sorry.
No, you're not up there.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. It's fair to say I'm not relaxed about it. This is about Harry Kane situation. It's not something you go, oh well. You know, if it does or doesn't happen, I mean, it's a very important part of this football club, not just the team, but the football club. He's such a massive figure. And as I've said already, whilst my focus isn't on it on a daily basis because I've got other things I need to do, I know that every time I am talking to you guys or whenever Harry is going to talk, that's the first question you're going to get. So you've got to deal with it. And I think for everyone concerned, we don't want to be doing it for too long, which is a big thing, right? We don't want to be doing it for too long. I don't think that's good for anyone. I don't think it's good for Harry. I don't think it's good for the club because as laser focused as we want to be, you end up sort of repeating yourself along the way. But the flip side of it is I don't want to put a deadline on it. I don't because that adds even more pressure. You want these things to happen for the right reasons. The reality of it is he's still a contracted player at our football club. So that's the way I see him. It's not like his contract is ending on the 12th of August. And he's got to make a decision. He's got another year. So from that apart, I'm not relaxed, but I'm not putting pressure on him or anyone else at the football club saying, well, we need to do this. But I don't think deep down that any of us want it to go on for too long. Before I move on anymore, I'll come back up to the last part of it in a second. But for me, whilst I appreciate him even talking about it, this part is a little bit of a crucial thing for me. I'm not relaxed, but I'm not putting pressure on him or anyone else at the football club saying we need to do this.
Basically, you're worried you want to get this sorted out as soon as possible.
He is saying I don't want to. It's pissing him off. Right?
Yes,
It would piss me off. I made a comment about it yesterday on one of my videos saying, like, go, bro, go. If you ain't signing a contract, you've got to go. And this idea that you're being respectful to the football club by not asking for a transfer. No, mate, that's the worst of all worlds, because people at the hierarchy will think, oh, if he's not going to ask to leave, then that allows me to put a ridiculously high asking price on his contract on him to leave that won't be met, and then I'll feel like maybe I can convince him over the next 9 months. And to me, it's the worst of all worlds, because you're trusting in Harry Kane, but ultimately, I think it's clear for everyone to see that Harry Kane doesn't want to be here anymore. He hasn't done any conversations with Spurs play where he can control the narrative. None of that stuff has happened. That only doesn't happen if you're worried that the guy doesn't want to face questions because he doesn't want to give clear answers that you want to hear. And so, to me, when Ange Postecoglou says what he's saying, yeah, it's a distraction. It's not something we want to have. But ultimately, I'm not going to also ask or tell anybody at the club that we need to do this. I think a lot of Tottenham fans were worried about whether Ange Postecoglou was going to be just a nodding dog. And I don't know if that's the way it looks, but I'm going to let you go.
I think he is. I think, forget that he said, I'm not putting pressure. I think the fact that he said this is putting pressure. But essentially, again, we can talk Harry Kane all day long until Bayern Munich or equivalent put a bid in that is what Levy will accept. None of this matters, because all of the power is in Harry Kane's hands. Unless Daniel Levy wants to say, all right, I'll take £80 million for him.
But doesn't Ange Postecoglou need, when he says I'm not going to put pressure on the club, doesn't Ange Postecoglou need to put pressure on the club?
I think he has. That statement alone for me is, I think you've got to play the game. I think if you come out and do what Antonio Conte did, which was full on toys out the pram, throwing the owners under the bus, the players under the bus, great. That's great, because we all go, oh, brilliant. Look, he's told us the truth. For morale, I think it just killed the season. That, if I'm honest, I think that right there completely killed everything. I'm not blaming him solely for that. I'm just saying Postecoglou is 25, 30 days into the job, whatever he is. I think that statement is his way of saying, hey, I need this sorted so I can actually know what my plan's going to be. Yeah. You know, I've just done a video on this, guys, where I said we always look at it purely from a fan's perspective. But if you're Postecoglou, you want to know, am I going to have to play this way next year, but then Kane's going and I then have to change because the player I bring in won't be as good as Kane and it might be a completely different way? Am I going to have unsettled people in the changing room knowing that Kane's playing even though he's There's so many different factors to think about. But the problem is this. Do you believe, guys, right? They've offered £68 million, right? Which was 80 million euros.
Enough. Yeah, that's not
right?
Of
course it's not enough.
Not
right, of course it's not. Do you think if he turned around to them and said 80 million sterling and he's yours, I think you've got a deal. Problem is, when you start saying 100 million plus, are Bayern the team that pay 100 million plus?
No, I don't think they do.
Bayern have never paid 100 million for anybody, have they?
Right. So unless Bayern smash their transfer record, Kane, I've said this all summer, Sean, you, Dave, he will, I think, unless Bayern pay that money, I think if I'm Harry Kane, taking my Spurs hat off, not what I do as a Spurs fan. If I'm Kane, I'm running down that contract and then I'm having the pick of the sweet shop next summer. Right. I'm getting a fat signing on fee.
And if you're Daniel Levy and you're an intelligent accountant, which he is, let's be honest, like, he might be stubborn, but he's super smart. Gavin, I'll come to you, mate. Like, if you know that that's the scenario, and it's not an unlikely scenario, it's an entirely possible and probable scenario, then does Daniel Levy need to have a conversation with X, Y, Z people? Start off with Harry, then move to Ange, then move to Charlie, figure out what's going on, figure out where everyone else sits, and then go back to Bayern and go, all right, look, it's one or the other. And then what is that Goldilocks zone? And it's 68 million quid is not worth it, because Harry Kane, even a disgruntled Harry Kane, will still bang you in 25 goals because he loves scoring goals more than he loves sitting on his feet or sitting on his thumbs, right? So that might be the difference between 5th or higher or 6th or lower, which Champions League revenue gets you 60, 70, 80 million anyway. So to me, brains like Daniel Levy, if he's a smart guy, needs to like understand what he's dealing with, stop being stubborn, take his negotiation hat off and get back in the world of reality, because dragging this on forever reminds me of Berbatov.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I would be shocked if Levy like hasn't, you know, like had some of these conversations. It's like when we watched the Amazon thing, and you know, he would have little conversations with Ericsson, and Ericsson would be sitting there biting his tongue like he just wants to rip his head off. He's like, I know you want to go, mate, but I want a business. If I don't get the money, you're not going nowhere. And like, and Harry will know this. That's why there's things coming out where Harry's like, look, if a great offer comes in, I'll go. If it doesn't, I won't. You know, and so Harry needs this for all this talk. It's not bad for the Kane brand. It's really not bad. It looks, I guess, undermines Bayern for where they are. That they can't just go and get, because they need Kane to win a Champions League, not win a trophy at home. This is big boy stuff here that they're trying to do. You know, like pay 90 million, go and win a Champions League. That's the difference we're dealing with. So they're probably going to get a little bit of a black eye with this, that they haven't just gone ahead and you know, given Levy what he wants. But they've had sit downs. You don't sit down at a lunch for 5 minutes. They've had hours and hours and hours of talking. Levy has told them exactly what he wants. They are just waiting to see if he's going to loosen up, and we'll see how it goes further down, you know, at the end of maybe Kane doesn't want to play that style of football, whatever. And all of that, then this kind of stalemate, that then ruins things, because is Ange going to go to a guy like Kane who's adapted his game into this kind of drop in, this Cam-like striker who can score from anywhere? Is Ange going to go and start telling him, mate, I just fucking want you in that box?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's
doing it.
Brains. You know what, mate? It's a really, really good point. And Dave, I want you to like fill me in on your knowledge on this one, mate. But for me, I feel like if you're going to lose Harry Kane in any Tottenham system, where you're going to have the least impactful scenario play out, isn't the Postecoglou system where the 9 is a distraction, the 9 is a sacrificial lamb? Isn't that the best system to lose Harry Kane? If you have to lose Harry Kane to any system, isn't it the Postecoglou system where the 9 is someone who gets on the end of things, not who is the creator in chief? Isn't this the best system to lose Harry Kane if you're going to lose him at all?
Depends on what business the club do this summer. You know, if we go in with the back line on what we've already got and you lose Harry Kane, it's going to have a detrimental impact. You know, people are hoping that other players around will pick up, you know, Kane's slack. Richarlison isn't going to do it as much as I wanted him to, and as much as I hope he does. It's looked like he ain't going to do it. Sonny's had one golden boot season. It's going to be hard for him to replicate that. Kulu, I don't think is going to get much more outside of what he got in his first season. Okay, Solomon and Maddison might add a couple more, but in large, everyone else around ain't going to add that much. And if you're still shipping goals at the rate we are, then it's a recipe for disaster. I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to get relegated, but, you know, we're definitely not going to make any progression whatsoever. You know, so you're going to have to do other business to be able to help Ange Postecoglou and that system. So again, it's over to the club. Look, my feeling on the whole situation is that, you know, I was to go out an article last night saying that it's not done for Spurs. Like, you know, if Spurs and Postecoglou can convince Kane that he will sign on the dotted line, but like I said earlier on, why would Kane sign on a dotted line when he's looking around and things still haven't changed? The only thing that's changed is the style of football. You know, nothing else has changed. We're still losing games because of that back line. So it doesn't matter with Harry Kane looking at the situation right now. It doesn't matter what he does at one end. The defense is always going to find a way to be the headline on the next morning. So, you know, even
if you get the centre backs, right? Let's put the centre back. The centre back conversation for me is a pain in the ass conversation, but it's going to be resolved.
Yeah, but Sean,
right?
it's relevant.
I know it's relevant, but assuming that Van de Ven and Tapsoba or one of and someone else who's not a complete disgrace comes in, right? Then we can all sit there and go, okay, the defense is far better than it is. I seriously still look at the right back spot and think that's a problem for next summer or a problem for January, but it's not. We're not solved in the right back. We are not solved at left back. Udogie for me could be the real deal. Time will tell. But you can't change everything all at once. Rome wasn't built in a day. But the centre backs obviously are the priority. But let's assume that that's done, and let's assume that the money for that is already allocated. Then my question is, like, really about just losing Harry Kane versus keeping Harry Kane versus getting that money now, even if it's 80 million, and then finding the little sprinkling in what you need instead. Is it not relevant to think that to ask Harry Kane to play in the Postecoglou 9 is wasteful of Harry Kane? And therefore,
Why?
if he really wants to go, just because you're not, if you're trying to recreate Postecoglou's system, then
but Harry Kane done it for Pochettino, getting in the box and getting him behind. Let's not pretend Harry Kane can't adapt to any system. Harry Kane is a world-class player. He can adapt to any system. It's
no,
nonsense.
but I'm not saying that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, do you think that if you've got a player that is world-class like Harry Kane, it's horses for courses, and you're going to ask him to play in the 9 where his main role in most of the build-up, like Kyogo Furuhashi wasn't involved in most of the build-up play. Right, and we saw it in the first half when Kane and Maddison played together. Kane came back and dropped into Maddison's space, and it kind of crowded the area because that's what Kane knows what to do. He wants to get involved. But actually, the number 9 role, as far as I understand it, I'm not an expert on Celtic's system, but as far as I understand it, the number 9 role in Celtic was more of the sacrificial lamb. He was there to draw space for other players and then get on the end of the move and score the 34 goals that he scored. And so I'm just saying, like, if we're going to lose Harry Kane, isn't this the best system to lose him into?
Sean,
but the thing is, you're going into this season. Oh, sorry, Brian's gone.
Yeah, I was just going to make a point. I think it kind of also, the point was inspired by something you said a little earlier, Dave, is that how hilarious a situation this, let's just get perspective here. For 2 seasons, we have an unbelievable monster like Harry Kane under 2 managers who play hideously boring football that doesn't actually cater to his abilities, right? It does not play football that you would love to see with Kulu, Son, and Kane, arguably one of the best front 3s ever, right? And then finally we get a manager in who plays attacking football, who you're going to have so many chances for everyone, and Kane, if he's in the box, is going to put them away like he's going blind, you know? Then we get rid of him. Is that not just so unbelievably Spursy? You know?
Yeah, but don't you? I mean, look, I look at this 2 ways. First of all, I slightly disagree with Dave. I think that, and this is all a hypothetical game, right? Before anyone shoots me, I truly believe if Harry Kane isn't at this football club anymore, I don't think it's as catastrophic as so many people make out, right? Yeah. I've said this a million times. It's a false economy when people go, "We'll lose 30 goals." That's not real. That's not the way it works in reality. Other people will score goals, right? Now, are they going to score 30 each? Of course they're not. There's like 5 of them in the world who score 30 plus goals a season. But what you will then see is maybe Sonny through the middle, who can get 10 to 15. James Maddison, for the last 3 or 4 seasons, has always got 10 to 12 goals for Leicester playing in the hole, right? You would then buy other forwards as well. Solomon might get you 5 or 6. Kulu might get you 5 or 6, right? You will get other forwards if Kane goes that will be more suited to the system. Now, I agree, Dave. Kane is world-class, can fit into any formation. That for me isn't a doubt. But to what Sean's point is, I think what Sean's point is if he's going to go, this would be the best time because
I agree with that, by the way.
It's a system. Unlike Conte's and Jose's, which relied on Kane for everything, this system won't. You saw it in one game. How many players in the box? And we never have players in the box. Like we had 5 or 6 players when we were attacking in the box. Goals will come from everywhere. So for me, I've said all along, if a bid comes in of 85, 90 million, I would rather get rid of him now rather than do a year with him just to then change it next year. Get the 90 million, get your 2 centre-halves, plus there's already money there, clearly, and get yourself some young forwards that all chip in the way Arsenal do. Arsenal have 4 players that all got between 13 and 15 league goals.
Yeah.
And they were I'm not saying we will be, by the way, please don't take this wrong. They were in a title challenge without a 30 goal a season man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brighton have just had their best ever season and got into Europe. Their top goal scorer was McAllister with 12 goals, right? So for me, I think that we're so indoctrinated into having Harry Kane that I know it looks like it's going to be this big, horrible thing when he goes, but I think it could actually galvanize the team, the spirit, and it might have to make people like Son go, I'm the main man now, or Maddison go, I'm a leader. So I don't think it's the end of the world if he goes. Honestly, I really don't. I don't think we're not going to fold. We're not going to get relegated.
I think there's so many variables going into this season.
Dave, I'll let you come in right now. Let me just ask. I haven't asked for. We've been going for an hour and a half. I haven't asked anyone for a long time, guys. Please do me a favor. If you're watching this, there's 850 people watching on YouTube. There's another nearly 200 people watching elsewhere. It's insane. It's over 1,000. I think this is the record amount of viewers. Maybe not, but it's crazy. Please do me a favor, guys. I've smashed the links in the comments. Brains McLeod. This guy's content, his music stuff is mind-boggling. It's just insane. It's so good. Please get over there and listen to it if you like British hip hop, or is it British hip hop, Brains? I'm not sure what it is. Is it
hip hop or music in general? Really, just if you like.
It's excellent. It's so excellent. If you're interested in that stuff, I'll keep pumping the link. Obviously, get over to Sava Football Heritage TV. What you chasing down right now, Sava? 8K?
I'm about 57 off of 7,500, and chasing down that K. So if 57 of the 800 would like to subscribe, that would really help a brother out. Just the 57.
Amazing. Sava's link is in the title, as is Irish Hotspur, Bub. Dave, what are you chasing down? What's going on your channel? What's going on? Are you on the mark
11,
towards...
so close to 11.
So close to 11. Guys, all you got to do is look in the title, hit the link. It doesn't take you away from the show. We're going to carry on going. Just hit the subscribe, show the love to everyone. I'm going to keep putting Brains' Spotify in there because if you do like good music, this guy is a champion of it. And also hit the subscribe here if you haven't already. Listen, every time I go live, we get demonetized. So there's absolutely zero benefit in terms of monetization to me spending 2 hours talking with these wonderful people and to give you content apart from super chats and or subscribers. And so I love, if you want to get your questions in, do that via super chats. And we got a couple for us here to get through before I come to Dave on his point he wants to get to. Got Chunky Cheeks, who said Spurs Art Hotel California FC. Exactly. You can never leave. You can love that, my man. Oh, have I lost you guys? No, I'm still here.
It's like Waco, isn't it? It's like Waco.
We are a cult. We are a cult indeed. We're at 5:05. This is generally the time when my internet starts to collapse. So if I do cut out, I'm going to let you guys carry on for me whilst I reassess. But we got Mosh Chops. Big up Mosh Chops. Thank you for the super chat. Bayern can't afford Kane. All the noise is coming from Germany, and they are trying tactics to get a cheaper Kane. It's not going to work. Yeah, but you know what, mate? I think, listen, if Kane wants to go, at some point you got to shake hands with it. You know, like if you love them, let them go. I'd much rather take 80 million now than nothing next year, because I genuinely do believe, and I think the panel. I haven't heard Dave's take, and Dave's got to give his take in a second on this, but I genuinely think that the Tottenham squad right now under this system could handle losing Kane more than the vast majority of other systems. But thank you for the super chat. And Jory as well. Big up, Jozza. Good to see you, my man. Thank you for the super chat. He says Levy uses accounting principles to achieve shareholder goals, not football goals. And if you view THFC with this mind, our transfer actions will make sense. Well, listen, mate, you know, I'm someone who looks at it the other way. But like I say, if you watched this stream earlier, I'm losing patience with that model. I've never been closer to the understanding of Levy out than I am right now. I'm furious that these other clubs that haven't got the ability to compete on revenue streams. I think that Daniel Levy still is working within the previous versions of FFP, and the new versions have pivoted and he hasn't yet, or maybe he just doesn't see the value in other assets like he sees them in his own, and that is a problem. So as close as I will ever be to Levy out is probably right now. But thank you for the super chat, my man. Really appreciate it. We're going to carry on. Dave, sorry, mate. Where were you about to jump in on Sava's point?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, you know, I do get what point Sava's making and that, but for me, there's too many unknown variables going into this Kane decision, and this is what I've always said. You know, if the club knew this was coming up, that's why they needed to put us in a position to be able to, you know, the right position to move on without him. Look, Vicario, I like him, think he's a good signing, but the reality is, it's unknown going into the Premier League. Don't have that back line sorted out. Reality is, we already know exactly what's going to happen. We're talking about other people stepping up. Reality is they haven't done it when Kane's here. Granted, when a big personality in someone sort of leaves the room, you will always get a couple that step up. But it's also, you know, an unknown that players are going to step up to this level. You know, we talk about other people pitching in with goals, but Kulu had a poor season last season. And for me, there's so many sort of unvariables going into this season that it's a huge, huge risk. Someone like Kane is an insurance policy, regardless of what happens, because these goals, no matter what goes on throughout the season, would keep you to a certain level.
I don't think that's quite true. Sorry. I'm sorry. Just to make this
100% true.
Not controversial. I don't think it is. When you said no one has stepped up while Kane's been at this club, Tottenham got to a Champions League final when Harry Kane was out injured for months and months and months.
Hang on, I'm arguing your point. You said no one steps up when Kane is here and that others might when he goes. So now you're arguing your own point.
I never said no. No. I'm saying is at the moment everything goes through Kane. Everything goes through Kane. No one's had to step up. When Kane is out, look how Sonny stepped up when Kane was out. Kane had that a couple of seasons where he had really bad injuries in both seasons, and the data and the stats actually show that when Kane wasn't here, our form was actually better. I'm not saying we're better without Kane, but the results
just
from
to
that
hit you with
didn't
some
change.
stats as well, though. Just to hit you with some stats as well. That Kane and Sonny, especially with Sonny, Kane massively. Like there was a guy that done the what's his name, Ben Foster podcast ages ago, and he was talking about stats and everything else, how it's influenced the game and all that. And he brought up loads of stats on how Kane actually helped Sonny's game through link-up play, through holding up the ball and feeding them in and all this. So, you know, we have to take that into account as well.
But Dave, you've got to remember, but you've got to remember that most of that and the last 4 or 5 years, you've got to remember the way we played football was designed for everything to go through Kane for him to set up Son. That's all we've had, those two. This formation is not designed for one player to have the ball. This formation is designed to cause chaos. This formation is, you saw it the other day, down the right, then we're down the left, then it went through Maddison in the middle, midfielders breaking and getting into the box. This is the thing. If Kane goes as well, it's not like we're not going to sign players. Now, they're not going to be Harry Kane, and I think Spurs fans have to get that out their mind. They have to get that out of their mind. It's not going to be a striker anywhere near Harry Kane's level. But Maddison's a proven goal scorer in the Premier League. Sonny's a proven goal scorer in the Premier League, right? You now start to get one or two other forwards in that area that get you 10, 12, 15 goals. Bissouma might chip in with a couple. Listen, I know nothing's a guarantee, right? But the problem is he's going to go. This guy is going to go, whether it's now or next summer, he's going to go. And I would rather take the money, use that money, if you have to shore up the back line that we all want. So, and I think you don't have to even cover 30 goals. If you're conceding less, you don't have to cover the 30 goals. So
yeah, but that's
for me,
though.
Huh?
That's if we haven't done anything to prove.
Of course, all of this, every football conversation
assumptions. But would you? Okay, let me posit this. Would you, if it meant you could get Van der Ven and Tapsoba by selling Kane, right? But by not selling Kane and keeping him for one more year, you could only get Van der Ven and someone who's going to play back up to Romero, right? But not really going to fill you that much, like a Nelson or someone like that, right? Would you rather sell Kane and get Van der Ven and Tapsoba, And then maybe with a little bit of the juice that's left over, go and buy. I mean, a name escapes me, but someone that's never obviously going to replace you the 10, 15, 20 goals that you need from Harry Kane, but someone that can just add more versatility to the forward line. If it takes us to sell Harry Kane to get Tapsoba and Van der Ven, would you rather that, or would you rather keep Harry Kane and only get Van der Ven?
We don't have to sell Harry Kane to get Tapsoba or Van der Ven, though. The money should be there to buy them. We were told last January we would be getting in 2 centre-backs, and that was not on the condition that Harry Kane would be sold. So the money should be there for centre-backs.
I know, but we're playing hypothetical. So in the hypothetical,
I'm not doing the hypothetical thing, Shawnee. Look, because realistically,
I see you. It's all hypothetical, Dave. It's all hypothetical.
It's taking your nose off to spite your face. That's what it is. It's sort of like.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're right.
I don't think it
shouldn't
is
be necessary.
I don't think it is. I think Spurs fans, we're the only fan base that do this because we've been kind of backed into this corner where we've been so bad for years that Harry Kane is everything. Other clubs lose players and they move on. We will lose Kane and we will be fine. I know people can't see that right now. We will be absolutely fine. We went for years without a 30-goal a season, Harry Kane. We were fine. Yeah? We lost Teddy Sheringham. We were fine. We lost Dimitar Berbatov and Robbie Keane. We were fine. We lost Modric, Bale. People could say we lost Bale, then went and had some of the best football we've ever seen under Poch. It's not like Harry Kane goes and all of a sudden we fold. I'm not as worried about it as other people. I'm not. But I've seen players come and go before. You've seen players
I think there's never a better time to sell Harry Kane if I'm entirely honest. I agree.
Here's the thing, Sean. Here's the thing, because I'm kind of like a foot in both ideologies here. Like 100% agree. But everything Sava said there was 100% accurate, with a big if and but. And this is the variables that Dave's talking about, where it's like, of course, you're going to be fine. If you just finally solve out the centre-back thing, and then we can go, well, that's an obvious thing we need to. But I mean, that goes without saying. But genuinely, you need to sort that. If Kane goes right now and this squad ends that, and even if you bring in Kyogo, I don't think I think you're going to get hammered, and you might be in the lower end of the table. A Harry Kane might pull out something out the bag for you. You're still screwed. But say you bring in Tapsoba and VDV, then I think like there is no better time than to just go and get a cog type Kyogo type player who knows exactly what to do.
Do you think Kyogo's the guy, Brains? You know Celtic more than I do. I don't know if the other guys know it, but do you think Kyogo is the guy?
Yes, and it's because of there's an ignorance to like his career in Celtic, right? It's like Kyogo before that was a great striker. Like he was then put into a system where he was like incredible because he has no ego. He has that kind of, that style of thinking. It's like, do what you're told, be exactly where you need to be. But that's not to say that he didn't have world-class finishes.
I wouldn't mind if he wasn't 5'7".
But this is the thing, Sean.
I concern myself when I see that starting lineup against West Ham, and you have Serge Reguilon, who's 5'8". You have James Maddison's 5'9". You have Pedro Porro's 5'7". You have Solomon, who's 5'7", and
why
you had
do you have to be tall
Skippy, who's 5'8". Like,
but Sean, why do you have to be tall to play fast-moving football? No, it's not to say that
you have to be tall to defend against set pieces.
I get that, but Kyogo is not going to be a Kane on the goal line, heading and being our best defender as well as our best striker.
Kane was one. We conceded so many goals last season from set pieces, but and
he was one of our best defenders. Yeah,
exactly right. He was one of our best He's one of our best defensive headers of the ball. So if you take him out and you bring in another 5'7", Tottenham's average height goes from 6 foot. And we haven't got anyone who's 6'3", 6'4".
I know.
Everybody's 6 foot-ish, but suddenly it goes down to 5'9", 5'10". It's a problem.
But regardless, Sean, for that system, you are not going to get rid of Kane, and it's insane if they go try to put a 6'5" striker in there. Like the role of how he plays that system and how he did it so sweetly and correctly. I'm not saying he's going to do that, but how he did it with Celtic was that 9 role is considered, it's called, it's like you're a ghost. It's ghosting in. He's the nine is diving and darting.
I wouldn't be so concerned, but Celtic's other players were much taller, right?
Yeah.
And Tottenham's squad against West Ham was short.
Yeah,
it was really small. It's a worry for me because you look at Brentford, you look at Bournemouth, you look at Brighton to a degree, you look at Newcastle, you look at Liverpool. Like they got like the average height now is like 6'1", or even if it's not, it could be 6 for average height. But if you got 2 or 3 players that are 6'5", and Tottenham have got half the team that are 5'8".
But I think it's your defenders you want to be tall, right? Rather than worrying about Kyogo being. I mean, if we're using him as the example, can I just say something? Just a comment you brought up from We Are Tottenham TV, right? Could you bring that back up? It said they were saying that I was wrong when I said we were fine when Keane and Berbatov left, and they said we took
what time
2 points from 8 games. So it was
this one,
right.
14.
Now, first and foremost, right? When I talk about we were fine, I don't know about you. I'm not talking about a period of 8 games, right? I'm talking about Tottenham Hotspur as a football club and how we move forward. Take that 8 games away. What happened after that 8 games, right? Harry Redknapp came in, pushed Gareth Bale to left wing, right? We went to an attacking manager who put Gareth Bale.
What you're going to say? What you're going to say speaks volumes about the shift in manager. You look at Steven Gerrard to
hang on.
Right? So,
hang on. Let me
go. Sorry.
Right. No, it's not just about the manager that came in and played a good football. We saw Bale pushed in a new idea, pushing him from left back to left wing. The rest is history. Luka Modric went from left wing to central midfield. The rest is history. And if you actually remember, take that 8 games away. The next 3 or 4 years under Harry was brilliant. We went from bottom of the table to 8th in that season, playing really good stuff, buying players that weren't worldies, right? Buying Wilson Palacios, right? Good, solid player, but nothing special. Buying Jermaine Defoe, buying Peter Crouch. Do you know what I mean? Right? He did that. Then the next year, we then went and got Champions League, right? So when I say we were okay when Berbatov and Keane went, we were more than okay. We were actually better. I'm not saying we'll be better without Kane, but
we had to sack a manager. We haven't won a trophy since.
Dave, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, every single manager.
No, but we're saying it got better and everything else. But what have we won since? You know, if Mandy Ramos would have cut Berbatov,
how many people talk about Ramos?
But hang on, but it isn't even that, Sean, is it? As a club, Harry took us into our first ever Champions League. So how can people say it didn't get better? Of course it did. He took us into the Champions League.
We all sit here and moan about winning trophies and lifting trophies.
But Dave, but again, Dave, that wasn't my point.
Dave, that wasn't my point. We kept Berbatov. Could we have had a different season altogether? The fact is, we sold Berbatov. It didn't work out. We had to change a manager. It's not exactly true to sit here and say 100% it got better. We all sit here and moan about.
Hang on, Dave. Sorry, it is 100% true to say we got better because we won that League Cup, right? Okay, so where did we finish? Where did we finish the seasons with Berbatov and Keane? Where did we finish?
Yeah, lower down the league.
Right, lower down the league. Then Redknapp took us in his first season, jumped us up 12 places in the league. Second season took us to our first ever top 4 finish in Champions League. The season after, was 5th. But I remember the teams he was playing against at the time: the Man Uniteds, the Arsenals, the Chelseas, the Liverpools. Then the year after, we only didn't get Champions League football because of Chelsea winning the Champions League. Right, that started Spurs going from this to this in terms of league position. So for people to say, my whole point was Berbatov and Keane left and the club didn't implode. The club actually went on to play some of the best football we've seen in the Premier League era from us.
I got to agree with Sava on this one. I got to agree with Sava.
Yeah, for me personally,
it's not about. Dave, give me 10 seconds.
We just changed manager though, Dave. We've changed manager. We've done that. We've already done that bit. And Redknapp wasn't bringing in sensational footballers, was he? Redknapp was bringing in players that he knew would run through brick walls for him, solid Premier League players, the same way Postecoglou will bring in solid players. But to say Berbatov and Keane left and it got worse for 8 games, we can't really use that as a sample size to say, oh, we were terrible. It was 8 games. Like, sorry, that was my only point. Sorry.
We sacked the manager to change the whole system, to change everything about what we were doing previously.
And we've just done that. Haven't we just done that with Conte going and Postecoglou coming in?
Yeah,
We've
but if
done
you
that
let Kane go, how do you know we're not going to enter the season and end up in the same position we did under Ramos and end up having to
and that is a slight difference. 100%.
But we didn't have it. Hang on, but we had.
The point is the variables. Like, if you tell me that, okay, if they came out and said, look, Kane is going, Son's going to be the number 9. We've got Tapsoba and VDV in, and we're looking at a CDM, a real 6. I'd go, see you later, Kane. Happy, would love that you were here. If you can guarantee me those variables have been solved, I'd totally agree that this is the best time ever then to remove Kane.
What you're saying, Brains, is you get the centre backs done this week. You go and find the money, Daniel. You've got the money. We all know the money is there. We've all seen the accounts. There's 260 million sitting in cash. I know you've got it like diluted elsewhere, but you've got the money. If Aston Villa have got the money and Arsenal have got the money and Chelsea can still seem to find the money, then you have the money. Go and get Van de Ven and Tapsoba. Get that done. Make that thing happen so we can all sit there and feel reassured that our centre-back issues are done. Then, once that's done, then if you really want to have a conversation, and Harry Kane has made it clear that he doesn't want to spend the next 12 months at Tottenham, and Bayern Munich are willing to pay the reasonable fee, which is higher than what they've currently offered, then do that. And then whatever Postecoglou wants in his mind to replace that, whether it's Kyogo or whether it's someone else.
Bang on, Sean. Bang on. But can I just say one thing? The difference between then and now, who can tell me who our forwards and attacking midfielders were that started that season under Juande Ramos? Who can name them? Fraser Campbell?
Oh, Fraser Campbell.
Was Gio Santos at that time, or was it after?
Right, okay. The fact that no, Crouch wasn't there at that time. Right? So this is what I mean. The fact was there was nothing there. If Kane leaves, Sonny is still there. Sonny will be much better in this system. Madison is there. Yeah?
Would you move Sonny into the 9, would you?
I think Sonny's a true 9. I really do think he's a 9.
I think he'll be better in the 9. I think I'd put him on the 9 and let off the shoulder and let Manor Solomon run at people.
And Richarlison stays on the bench.
Yeah,
and preferably at another club.
Himself, until he can at least score a goal and take his shirt off and not be offside. Do you know what I mean?
Quick round the house. I've got to take a couple of super chats, but quickly before we do, just one word, yes or no. Dave, I'll start with you. Richarlison, keep or sell for more than 35 million quid?
It's not a yes or no question. Are you saying yes or no? Or
you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Would you keep him or would you sell him if the selling was 35 million or higher?
I'd sell him. I'd sell him for 20 million. I think the guy is absolute crap.
I think if Kane leaves, I don't pin my hopes on him being the main man. I'm okay with him being a backup at a top 6 club or something like that at Tottenham. But if Kane leaves, I don't think he's going to get the goals required, because you're talking about the calmness in the moment. When you're in that goal scorer moment, there's so many things you got to process in split seconds. First touch positioning, where you're going to hit it, where the goalkeeper is, where the defender is coming from. And a lot of people don't actually calculate that into, when it comes to finishing. They think, every striker should finish. But the reality is, the reason why there's elite level strikers and average strikers is because the elite levels can do all that computing and, do what they're supposed to do in that moment compared to other players. And I don't think Richarlison can do that. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Brains, would you sell him or would you keep him? If the asking price was 35, 40 million.
I never wanted him. I couldn't believe we were bringing a guy who couldn't score 10 goals a season to be a backup for Harry. I couldn't believe it. For
me, it's up there as the worst. It's worse than Ndombele. It's worse than Sanchez. It's worse than Lo Celso.
I would sell. I would tear up the con. I would just please, let's understand what a striker actually is and how he's good in a Brazil team with the type of players around him, with a manager who says you're the guy, despite having better options. He says you're the guy. So that's a different world. In this system, in the Prem, and the pressure that us as Spurs fans in our stadium does put on, considering that you're coming in, taking Harry Kane's slot, like he doesn't have it. So I would sell for whatever we could get for him.
All right, just real quick, Sava, I know you got to go.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you. I've got a couple of super chats to get through, but I'll save them back. Sava, you got to go quickly. Last statement. Your take on Richarlison? If we do sell Harry Kane, would you be happy to sell him as well?
No, listen, I've said before, I think Richarlison is one of those that down the years has scored great goals, but he's not a great goal scorer. And I don't think his all-round game is good enough. I would almost loan him out. If we can't sell him, I'd sell him for 20 million. I think he's absolutely pants. I didn't want him last year. Loads of people were fighting the Brazil's number 9. I don't care. I'd rather have had Gabriel Jesus. Said it at the time. 60 million for him. I agree with you, Sean. Has got to be one of the worst.
Straight swap with Bayer Leverkusen to replace their guy on the wing. Yeah, listen, we'll take your man Tapsoba. Plus, we'll give you 25 million. Take Richarlison and see what you can make of him.
Yeah, I just worry because the PR have been forcing Richarlison down our throat. Listen, he could score 30 goals and prove us all wrong. I doubt it.
Never do that. No, never.
Right. Thanks, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've got to go.
Mate, okay, mate. I'll plug your channel afterwards, mate. Appreciate you.
Cheers, bro. Thank you. Thanks,
buddy. Thanks for coming on. Come on, go over to Football Heritage TV, ladies and gentlemen. The link is in the description, in the title of the show. Sorry, Dave.
I just wanted to come in quickly on that 08 or 09 squad that Sav was talking about, and I wanted to do it before he went, but he's gone now, so hopefully he's still listening briefly. But we also had Ledley King, Jonathan Woodgate, Michael Dawson, people like that to pick from at the back line, which then helped us keep clean sheets, which then helps us win games. So if you are going to get rid of Harry Kane, you have to have that defense in place, in order for it to not feel that hit. You have to, and that's why I keep bringing it up.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Listen, before we move on to the last topic of the evening, I just want to get our last couple of things out. Frankly, Tottenham with a super chat. Big up, Frank. Good to see you, my man. You still haven't reached out to me. I was hoping I was going to see a Twitter DM from you because I know you wanted to come on. But the fan shows are coming very soon, mate. Once this fiber optic stuff is done in the next couple of weeks. We love your content, Sean. Up YouTube's hole. Yeah, I appreciate it, mate. YouTube is screwing me, man. Listen, guys, there's a part of the reason why I don't do that many live streams is because every time I go live, it demonetizes. So it's not really beneficial, unfortunately, to do it. But I do appreciate.
If you bring on an Irishman and a Scotsman, you're not going to have the cleanest of conversation.
No, I don't think there's been any swearing. Listen, I reached out to YouTube. I don't know why they say that there's problems. There's no problems. Sean Patterson's a new member of the channel. Big up, Sean. Good to see you, my man. Thank you so much for the support. Like I say, next week, I hope next week there will be fan shows. I'd love to come and have 10 minutes of your time to see what your thoughts are on whatever's going on. And we've also got one from Tim Man 007. Big up, Tim Man. He says, I accept Kane going, but we have to use that money to replace him. The money for the centre-backs is already there. No excuses for Levy. This is what Dave has been saying. Big up, Tim, man. Really appreciate it, my man. That's it, right? Like, we shouldn't have to need Harry Kane to go in order to finance it. But listen, I never got round to the last half of this this interview with regards. Let me get my screen up again. Ange's take. We're not going to be going too much longer, guys, but I just wanted to. So I think we got to the point where he said, I don't think deep down any of us want it to go on for too long. After that, he said, I guess whenever you go into a role like this, you always know that relationships are going to help you as a manager to get things. Am I showing this on the screen?
No.
I'm not.
No.
Sorry, I'm not. Am I? Here we go. So you can see this. I guess whenever you go into a role like this, you always know that relationships are going to help you as a manager, but to get things get the things you need to do to work the way you want, there is always one or two, wherever I've been, key decision makers. And Daniel is no different to all the other ones I have worked with. They are very passionate about their football club. That's one common denominator. They are all different sorts of personalities, but they are all very passionate about their football clubs, and they want their football club to be successful. So you understand that then, for me, it's about saying what that relationship's going to look like. Again, I think what he wants to do is support me. I think that will be easy as he gets to know me a little bit better, which is only understandable. But I also understand that him being the key decision maker, he is the one that made the decision to bring me in. So for me, there's an obligation I have to make sure I repay the faith. He said he gave me the responsibility, but beyond that, I said just try and get him to understand me and what I'm about, because I think all these things are a matter of trust. The more you end up trusting each other as sort of key people, the more things can happen naturally. It's only natural that you start blah 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 blah. You know, I'm sort of rambling on here.
This is so interesting that, I mean, I don't know what the question was or who was it that was it in the press?
I think that the question was essentially, what's your relationship with Daniel Levy like?
It's really interesting that he speaks so frankly and just because I think you can read a whole bunch of stuff there. Like, I think you can read that, you know, while he wants to repay a manager's faith, and but he's also kind of saying the undertone of that is, let me work, let me get on with this. I need the squad, you know, like give me what I need and I will repay your faith. But also I'm trying to understand your situation, so I'm trusting you, you know, like it's interesting he's putting these words together. Like they're quite revealing, I think.
Yeah, 100% it is, mate. 1 million percent. It comes across to me like, however, it does come across to me a massive contrast to the Conte, the Mourinho system, where they were more like, it's about me and I'm expecting what I want to be made. Whereas he's coming across with this thing here. It was just trying to get him to understand me as a person more than anything else, not so much as a manager. Like he wants to get to know someone as a human being. And I love all that stuff. I do love it. And it goes on. We could go on, but in a nutshell, it's the same kind of trend. To me, it comes across as someone who's trying to win over the hearts and minds of someone. And I just wonder, and I worry a little bit whether or not Daniel Levy is going to utilize. Daniel Levy's a smart guy, but is he going to latch on to this? He's not going to fear Postecoglou. How do I say that? He's not going to fear Postecoglou calling him out. I don't think. From what I've read, I think that Postecoglou comes across as like, I'm a guy's guy. I'm a man's man. Like, you know, you treat me with respect, I'll treat you with respect. Yeah. Have a beer. Let's figure it out. Let's understand each other. And all that stuff's great. But you're dealing with a guy who has failed to satiate the requirements of 7, 8, 9 managers, whatever it is, each of them different. They all end up with the same kind of position. And I just wonder whether or not this 180 in tactics is fantastic, but the 180 in personality, is Daniel Levy going to sit there and say, I'm more willing to give you what you want because you're a nice guy, rather than someone who's going to demand things from me? I don't know what I'm reading into it. Like, how is Daniel Levy more willing to yield to this guy than to the previous guys that he never yielded to? Dave, I'll start with you.
Look, I don't think it comes down to personality. At the end of the day, every manager comes in with the same ambition to win, but we don't put them in the best position to win. And then after that, then you start seeing their real sort of personality or the real sort of character traits coming out when they start getting pissed off. And look, with Ange Postecoglou, we don't know this, but it could end up the same way. He's already came out after the West Ham game and said, we need centre-backs. Let's not pretend he only discovered it after the West Ham game. I'm sure he would have had conversations about that, when they were asking him about, being a manager. And at the end of the day, he can sit here and say all that now. Fantastic. And I love it. I love Postecoglou, don't get me wrong. But in reality, that tone could change 6 months down the line or 4 months down the line if he hasn't got the business he needs to help his system succeed. And that's it at the end of the day, Every manager comes in here wanting to win. And I don't think Daniel Levy's going to hand over money because of personality. Daniel Levy, sort of hands it over if he has evidence on the pitch that the club are going in the right direction, and then he'll sort of hand it over. But, you know, he always sort of gives the manager the first season to sort of sink or swim and see what he can do. But for me, I'm like, as Spurs fans, we're fed up with that. We just want our manager to come in here and be given what he needs for his system to succeed. If you give a manager what he needs for his system to succeed, everyone's happy. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, I was a bit worried. The only thing, like, with Postecoglou coming in is that I was thinking, like, Levy has said, look, you can come in, but work with what you've got. I can't promise you this, and I can't promise you that. Every single fan of Spurs knows we need centre-backs. Every single media outlet knows we need centre-backs. The manager knows. Everyone on earth knows we need centre-backs. But Levy, he doesn't have to, like, just give in. He could just go, look, we've got centre-backs. They're on contract. Make them better. You're a coach them better. He couldn't have possibly said that to people like Mourinho and Conte. They would have told him, go F yourself. Like, what is this? I'm me. You can't give me defenders this bad. I want Bastoni, you know. And Postecoglou, Ange is not going to do that. He's not going to like confront him and go, give me these, or else they'd have been on this tour, you know. So I think your concern, Sean, is kind of is similar. He's like,
you understand where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah, Ange isn't going to like demand, but then wait till you see when we go into the season with Rodon and Dyer still there, and Sanchez, and then
I don't want that to happen.
Ange getting angry.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen, but I'm worried that it might happen if Levy. Excuse me, I've got a cold. Excuse me. I worry if it's going to happen. I worry if it's more likely to happen because this guy is saying things like, "I'm not going to cause trouble, bro. Let's get on. Let's be mates. Let's get to know each other." Rather than saying, "No, hang on, hold up, lad. This is what you hired me. You failed with the last big name. You failed with the guy before him. Like, I'm not a mug. I'm not here to placate you. I'm not here to be the fool guy. Like, you want to move into a transitional period where you go from regressive nonsense football into progressive front foot football. That's cool, but I'm not going to be I don't want to be the first guy that is the obvious failure in a longer transition. I want to be the guy that can make it happen immediately. And if that to happen, I need this, and this. And I worry whether or not those words that I just read make out like he doesn't have the stones potentially, or not the stones. I'm not suggesting he hasn't got the confidence, but I wonder whether or not he's willing to say it how it is, you know, and say, Daniel, listen, like, you failed with you've tried the best and they didn't work out. Do you want this to work out or not? If you do, then at some point you have to shake hands with reality. And the defense is absolutely woeful. Like, it is woeful. And I need you to pay up, bro. You got the money. The club has the money.
Yeah.
Just get it done.
I think that there has been like just in something, one of the wordings that I read there, like, if that's a direct quote, like how he said, it wasn't about this or that. Like, I just wanted him to understand, you know, what I'm trying to do. Like, that to me sounds like he has had a confrontation already with Daniel. Like, he has sat and said what he needs, and you know, but then he's having to validate, like, but you know, he brought me in, so I'm giving him time. You know, I'm giving him my trust, but it sounds like it's kind of in like he's set out that he's basically, I want what I want, and you know, if you want success, this is what we have to do. But you know, I'm just trying to get my personality across to you. But like, I do every time I hear him speak, and also when you see him in when a media guy tries to screw with him, he turns like that.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a dark side, hasn't he, Frank? I agree with you about that.
His dad was a disciplinarian, and actually, as a football coach, even though he is Uncle Ange, he is a disciplinarian. So I do think he won't take too much, but I also just kind of feel like there's a part of I hope anyway that he doesn't just feel like I'm finally here at the biggest stage, and maybe I shouldn't bite the hand that feeds too early. I could get that. Right.
Yeah.
But we want him to just be like, give me the centre backs now, you know. But
he shouldn't have to beg too hard, mate. It's so obvious to everybody, isn't it? You know, Dave.
It's easy to have but it's also easy to have a likable personality when you're winning. When you're losing, it's a different case. You know, for all we know, we could end up going into the season, start losing games 3-2, 4-3, like we were last season. You know, and all of a sudden, you might see different press conferences from Ange, because he could be going into press conferences going, well, I mean, it's all well and good playing great football, but it's about winning. And, you know, I needed centre-backs, and we haven't done that business. So, you know, his personality could change very, very quickly, you know, if we don't do the business, and it ends up him sort of not being able to get his full philosophy or everything he wants to do fully across. Because we got to remember, this guy isn't just here for vibes and to play great football. He's a winner. He's won everywhere he's been, and we can't misconstrue that. And that's why it's important that the club give him what he needs, because every winner that doesn't get what they need, eventually, you know, when the press start piling on the pressure, which he will not get as much grace from the press like Conte or Jose Mourinho have done. You know, all of a sudden, when people from the press or the fan base start going, oh well, like, you know, for instance, just like what was sort of happening under Conte. Well, they're international players. He should be getting better out of them, or he should be doing this, or he should be doing that with them. And it's like, that's when you will start to see him then start to sort of change his personality, because it's like every manager has sort of said it over the last few years. There's only so much I can do with the tools I've been given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear you, mate. I 100% hear you. I think it's a massively important, pertinent point that we shouldn't forget, that just because this guy hasn't done it at the highest level doesn't make him something to dismiss. He's done it at every single level. And at some point, the guys, unless you start at the top, like a Pep Guardiola, that never had to do it at a lower level, like, then obviously that's a different level. But most people have to start here and work their way up. And this guy has started here and succeeded here, succeeded here, has succeeded here, has succeeded. And now he's at the next level. And I don't think he should refrain from his confidence in asking for what's necessary. But Daniel Levy, over to you, bro. Listen, last couple of super chats and couple of new members to welcome to the channel. Jory saying, well, first and foremost, he said 2 times 40 million centre backs plus Dusan Vajovic minus Kane equals Kane. That's a really interesting one. I'll give this one to you, Brains. Do you think that if we sell Kane for whatever that is, 90 million quid, well, I guess Jory's suggesting that we can get 150 million out of it, because if he's saying 2 times 40 million centre backs and Dusan Vlahovic, which will cost 60 million in himself, that's probably 140. So maybe not. It's not. Well,
he's suggesting that we're saying there's already money there. So
okay,
some of that and then get Dusan. I mean, I liked Vlahovic. I think he got a bit of a raw deal. He went through an injury. He's not had the greatest of times, you know, in Serie A. But he was amazing when he first started, and he was some of the finishes.
He's quality player.
He is a great player. So he would be a good guy to bring in. I was going to pick up on, just for it to end off that situation that we were talking about, is that, you know, one thing to know about Ange is that although he's got success everywhere he's went, those clubs were in states of turmoil, and they gave him the keys to the kingdom. They said, do what you need. And he had free reign. The amount of signings he brought in at Celtic, you know, like, it wasn't big money, but he brought in like 9 or something in the first window, you know. So I think you do have to give him that back, and because then you can't possibly put any blame on him. If we start seeing good football in the attacking phase every single game and we lose games, it's just Daniel Levy, get out of our club every single game. It's get this guy out, the Levy out. That will have to be mobilized, because it will be the pure, unarguable proof that at this point that, you know, it failed with Mourinho, it failed with Jose, when now managers that you didn't back. Now you've got a guy who's from the bottom up, who's actually building brilliant football at this club, that even the youth can play, that you can train all the way through, make our under-21s better, make our under-17s, make everything better at the club, bring them in, develop them, coach players. But if you do not give him the platform at the start, get rid of the players who cannot play his game, get the centre-backs in, then what are you doing? What are you doing? So I kind of feel like the Kane thing is a distraction from what we actually need to be looking at. Is why do we not have these centre backs? Why are you even now? Why are you refusing to back the guy you just brought in? Even one game into this season, playing beautiful football, and yet we lose that game. How dare you not bring these centre backs in?
I agree, mate. I agree. At the same time, though, I'm going to hold out as little much faith as I have in Daniel Levy to get it done this time round. We've been promised centre backs for 2 years. We haven't had it. I'm going to just lean into reality and hope that Daniel Levy's not going to let us down. If he does let us down, then all bets are off. And here's a super chat to remind me of that fact from Phil P. Big up, Phil. Do I order you a purple and gold scarf for you, Sean? I don't need you to buy me one, mate. I'm going to get my own one if the season doesn't work out, if the season transfer window doesn't work out, buddy. I will have my own. I'll be joining you boys at this sideline, as long as I don't get headbutted by people that previously have opinions of me. Then I'll be there. But thank you for the super chat. Jory also said Richie is for a used bicycle. Yeah, I mean that shows the level of. The level that we're at. I think most people are now. I mean, I was never okay with him, just like Brains. I never wanted him. Also, we got some members to welcome into the community. Mia, what's happening, Mia? Good to see you. I hope you're okay. Still looking for that little apology to get you access back into the WhatsApp group.
Oh, God,
you know what I'm talking about. When you leave the group and you want to come back in, you have to apologize for leaving the group. They're the rules. I didn't make the rules. Well, I did make the rules, but you have to abide by the rules. But I really do appreciate.
You must have had to apologize to many a WhatsApp
I've
group.
apologized so many times. Once you learn the role of apologies. You bring other people in. Big up, Mia. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Daniel Steen as well. Welcome, becoming a channel member. Looking forward to meeting you as well as Mia and Sean Patterson previously, and Leo, the leader Hotspur as well on the fan finding shows. And also, last but by no means least, Donna Cullen. We got lots to talk about, Donna. We got lots to talk about, my love. I don't know why you're over in Australia. You need to be doing some better PR work.
Get a fucking deal done. Jesus.
Yeah, deal done, Donna. And last one from Mia. Thank you again for the super chat. He argued on Aussie TV he's no wallflower. Well, let's find out.
Sean,
let's find out.
100 when do you think both it's both centre backs that we want, VDV and Tapsoba? And do you think we wait to the end, or that just slowly,
it's driving me crazy, mate?
Or do you think you get them in the next couple of weeks?
I think we should have got them in already.
Yeah,
I really do.
I'm asking about your faith in Levy here. Do you think he is genuinely gonna do it?
I don't know what to say anymore, mate. I don't know what to say. I feel embarrassed because I defended this guy for so long based on other things, my understanding.
Now your credibility is on the line, though.
Yeah, my credibility is already kind of in the mud because I realized that I've sat there and defended, but I've never really defended Levy out. What I've defended is against the logic that's been presented by people that represent Levy out when they say that everything is his fault. And I'm like, well, hang on, that's not true. This is this, and this. Like, you have to think about these things. So. But I've always been willing for Daniel Levy to leave. However, as time's gone on, right now, I've never been more willing to wear a purple and gold scarf than in the previous 2 years I've been doing this YouTube gig. I think that Daniel Levy right now, there's no excuse. When you look at other teams that are doing what they're doing, that are pushing the boundaries on their risk appetite, there's really no excuse. There really is no excuse. So I'm desperate to see us get these 2 deals done. It shouldn't require Harry Kane exit to do it. It shouldn't require Højbjerg's exit to do it. It should be, we've got enough money, you get it done, and then you figure out the way to make your money back afterwards with the people that you don't want, but you get the boys in that you want now, and you give the guy that you've given him 4 years, 5 years. You give him the tools he needs to make it work. So
I genuinely think we're going to get one and just be annoyed. Dave, do you reckon we're going to get both? Knowing Levy, you think we're going to get both, or we're going to get either none?
I'll be honest. thought it was obvious, once they had to sack Pochettino and bring in Jose Mourinho. I thought it was obvious once they had to sack Jose Mourinho and bring in Nuno. Thought it was obvious when they had to sack Nuno and bring in Conte. Thought it was obvious when they had to end up sacking Conte and now they brought in this guy. You know what I mean? The reality is, I thought it's been so obvious since then. I've been calling out for years now, Brains. You know me, ever since you first seen me. I've been calling out the likes of Dyer, Sanchez, and I was saying they're not good enough. I've been proven right every single season, but yet we go into every single season with these mugs or pretend footballers here, and I've absolutely had enough of it. So I can't sit here and say 100% that this is going to be this is going to happen, because the reality is I can't say it does, because I've expected it to be so obvious. Like what we're sitting here speaking about now, even the Harry Kane situation, we probably wouldn't even be in this situation if we would have addressed this area quite some time ago. And look, I know some people may say, Dave, you're not happy, you're coming across as harsh. The reason why is because I love Ange that much and I want him to win. At the end of the day, we can sit here and change the style of football, but if we're not winning games, fans will call for this guy's head. They can sit here and pretend they're going to have patience all they want. If you're not winning games, the media will put pressure on them, the fans will put pressure on them, and he'll be sacked. It's happened with every single manager we've had since Pochettino. So I know that in order for us to start playing in style and winning, that centre-back issue has to be sorted. Because if not, the only thing you've done is change the style of playing. For me, as much as that excites me on a Sunday, the end of the day, winning is what gives me the hard on. Winning is what makes me glow. Winning is what makes me happy. And that's what I want for Ange. I do not want him to fall victim of the board not doing centre-backs again.
Yeah,
I agree.
Totally.
Guys, listen, really appreciate you dropping by for this. It was supposed to be an hour show. It's been 2.5 hours, as it always works out on the Spurs Talk Show. Things drag on, but it's been a wonderful conversation. I want to say a massive thank you to Brains, McLeod, for you've been here from the get-go. Let me just grab your Spotify link. Listen, I'm not going to say it again because I won't be able to articulate how cool I think your music is. But if you're anything like me and you like hip-hop, then just if you're on Spotify, go and click on that link and go and throw a subscribe to Brains. And also go and find the YouTube about Brains McLeod. There's a video about him and what he did with his crew it's mind-bogglingly cool. So this guy's an absolute monster in the world of music. Dave, what's happening on your channel over the next 48 hours before the friendly?
Yeah, tomorrow I'll go live. I'll do something tomorrow live. So, if you boys want to join me, feel free. We'll have a good conversation. And then, we'll be back Sunday then for the watch along, post-match reaction shows, shit like that. So, get over there and check me out if you've enjoyed my what I've had to say. And if you enjoy me being argumentative, check me out.
I saw you having a little crack at Sava. You were itching for a debate. I saw it. Listen, Dave's handle is in the title of the video. It will be in the description as well. So make sure you go over there and subscribe to him. I want to say a massive thank you also to Sava, who popped on for a long time. He was brilliant as always. His channel is also in the description. And I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's been in the comments for the last 2.5 hours. It's been mad numbers, mate. 850 people at times on YouTube, over 250 on Facebook. I didn't even know I had a Facebook channel, but there's been people over there. But I want to say massive thank yous to the new members, Lee, the Hotspur, to Sean Patterson, to Mia, and to Daniel, and to Donna Cullen. And I also want to say thank you to the super chats from Phil, from Chunky Cheeks, from Moss Chops, from Jory, from Frankly Tottenham, from Tim Man, from Jory again, and Jory again, and Phil once more, from Mia, and also the last one from Jory just popped in to round us off, which is saying success is not guaranteed with any chairman, but failure is with Daniel Levy. It's a wonderful way to finish, Jory. I'd love to have you back on the channel, mate, very soon. Listen, we like I say, mate, my narrative, I'm not someone that just follows crowds. I'll find my own pathway to however I feel. And right now, I get it more than ever before. I understand the Levy out narrative. And I just hope that this time round, this summer, that there's a little bit of a different shift in the tides. But we'll see what happens. Guys, thank you so much. Dave, Brains, appreciate you so much. Sava, if you're still watching, thank you so much. To everyone in the comments, appreciate you all. Guys, like, subscribe, and comment to the channel, to everyone else's. And as always, bye-bye.